somebody back here. There's always a meeting.
I did, but I didn't review something. I think this is the addition.
I don't read that part.
Madam Mayor, it's 6 o'clock.
Great.
We have a quorum. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this Tuesday, May 16th, City Commission meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Mayor Pam Triolo.
Here.
Vice Mayor Scott Maxwell.
Here.
Commissioner Omari Hardy.
Here.
Commissioner Andy Amoroso.
Here.
Commissioner Herman Robinson. Here. Thank you.
If everyone would please rise for our invocation offered by 8-year-old Sophia Lynn Teutsch from Sacred Heart School on behalf of Commissioner Andy Amoroso.
In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, amen. Let us pray. Dear Holy Father, please watch over and protect our City Commission as they make important decisions for the people in Lakewood. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen.
Thank you. Commissioner Robinson, would you lead us in the pledge, please? Thank you, Sophia. Thank you, Commissioner Robinson. Okay, additions, deletions, reordering. I see, City Clerk, we have a few here on the presentations. It has been requested that we leave presentation A as is. An addition would be presentation B, proclamation declaring May 2017 to be Mental Health Month. B will now be C, legislative update provided by Representative Berman and Senator Clemens. And D, neighborhood road program update to the commission. I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda as reordered.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all very much. So then moving immediately to our first presentation, a proclamation to Donna Lang. Would you like to join me up here? I'm coming down this way.
Bob can join you. Yeah, everybody.
Commodore.
Okay. Now sit right back while I tell a tale. And it goes sort of like that. Whereas 17 years ago, at the age of 38, Donna Lang, a nurse, athlete, musician, mother of 4, and grandmother of 3, was a virtual non-sailor who, motivated by a desperate desire to know herself and understand life on a deeper level, decided to buy a broken-down old boat in the Virgin Islands, rebuild it herself, learn how to sail, and set off to sail around the world alone. And whereas, in May of 2001, after learning more than she ever thought she could about engines, electronics, boat building, rigging, and sails repair, she embarked on her first solo ocean crossing from St. John in the U.S. Virgin Island to Rhode Island, planning to sail around the world as a minstrel. And whereas, Donna's second sailing experience was a challenging 33-day crossing to Ireland. With only a few days of sunshine on the entire voyage, she lost both her self-steering and primary mainsail in storms. After 24 days, without sleep and steering the boat by hand, 24 hours a day, she finally landed on the southwest coast of Ireland. And after repairs were made to her boat, she set sail from Ireland bound non-stop for New Zealand. And whereas, after a punishing Force 10 storm off the coast of Europe, Donna realized that she needed another major refit to face the Southern Ocean, and via the Cape Verde Island, she headed back west to the Caribbean. And whereas on November 11th, 2005, Donna left the dock at Rhode Island, bound once again nonstop for New Zealand in sub-freezing weather, sailing alone for 5.5 months from Bristol, Rhode Island to Bay of Islands, New Zealand in the winter. And after repairs to the boat, Donna went on to round Cape Horn and back to the Caribbean, just 250 miles short of completion of the circle back to Rhode Island in gale force hurricane winds. And whereas, as if that wasn't enough, and whereas finally in July 2015, Donna left from the Herreshoff Museum dock in Bristol, Rhode Island, this time to become the first U.S. woman to complete a world solo circumnavigation with no stops. And whereas the city of Lake Worth is proud of the accomplishments of our resident, Donna Lang, and we look forward to reading more about her extraordinary journeys when she finishes her book about her travels. Now, therefore, I, Pam Triolo, Mayor of the City of Lake Worth, Florida, by the virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby recognize May 16th, 2017 as Donna Lang Day.
No, I'm part of the Santa Club.
He's the mascot.
Paparazzi, you're probably used to this now. The Lake Worth Sailing Club would like to present you with a Virgie. We don't have a Virgie yet, we're not that organized. But my wife, Betsy Ross, the second, BJ put this together just for you. It's our first Virgie. I don't think it'll withstand another around the world trip, so I wouldn't put it on your boat, but yeah, that's right.
We'll keep it for the decorations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you to our Lake Worth Sailing Club. And did I give you both proclamations in there? I'm sorry, I think I gave you two. You only get one, Donna. No, I'm kidding. Thank you.
Excuse me, we're going to gather in the room over here if anyone would like to meet Donna.
Oh, yes, if you'd like to meet Donna, the conference area just on the other side of here, if you'd like to meet her personally, please join him over there. Join our Lake Worth Sailing Club in the room next door if you have any questions. Or just say hey. Here we go. I'm sorry, you are?
Catherine Murphy from Nami Palm Beach County.
Thank you so much for being here. Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and whereas everyone experiences times of stress and struggles in their lives, and 1 in 4 adults and 1 in 5 youth ages 13 to 18 experiences serious mental illness, and 60% of adults and 50% of youth do not receive the treatment necessary. And whereas community understanding and available supports and services can greatly impact a person's ability to handle their stress and struggle and move forward. And whereas promoting mental health and wellness leads to higher overall productivity, better educational outcomes, lower crime rates, stronger economies, lower health care costs, improved family life, improved quality of life, and increased lifespan. And whereas studies show that the effects of adverse childhood experiences are felt by people regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, gender, sexual orientation, or socioeconomic status. And whereas the city of Lake Worth recognizes the impact of awareness and education, access to services, and acceptance of the importance of mental health and well-being to a person's overall success, and supports the implementation of trauma-informed approaches throughout the systems of care. Now, therefore, I, Pam Triolo, Mayor of the City of Lake Worth, Florida, by the virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim May 2017 as Mental Health Awareness and Trauma-Informed Care Month. Thank you.
Put this down for a second.
Sure. I got it for you.
Thank you. So I'm from NAMI Palm Beach County, and we have a office here in Lake Worth off 10th Avenue and B Street. And we have a drop-in center for individuals who are living with mental health conditions. And it's a way for people to socialize, to bond, to reduce isolation. We have support groups and classes, a lot of really great things. And so we're so happy that the City of Lake Worth has proclaimed May as Mental Health Awareness and Trauma-Informed Care Month. On May 25th, we encourage everyone to wear green, get your green on, and join us in this effort. Thank you.
Our next item under presentations is a legislative update provided by Representative Lori Berman and Senator Jeff Clemens. Welcome, welcome. It's so nice to have you guys here. Thank you.
Good to see you all. We've been away in that legislative bubble that is Tallahassee, so congratulations to our new commissioners. It's good to see you all. It's good to see you up here, familiar faces, and congrats. As you well know, we have a part-time legislature in the state of Florida. We spend 60 days up there working on the state budget, as well as maybe another 8 weeks or so working in committee weeks. Representative Berman and I come here annually to try to give you the good news and the bad news, and so I'll start and then I'll hand it over to Representative Berman. We passed a roughly $82.5 billion budget this year. Sounds like a lot of money, but it is a budget that is actually slightly less than last year's budget. There are some good things and some bad things, as there are in any budget, and you all know that probably better than others. I want to talk about a few pieces of legislation that I worked on personally, and a couple of other things that came down the pipe. And Representative Berman will talk about some of the things that they either did or tried to do to cities this year. As you well know, I've been working on sober homes legislation now for 4 or 5 years, and we finally were able to seat a task force last year that I know Commissioner Amoroso and others have participated in, that allowed us to take recommendations to Tallahassee this year that weren't just Jeff Clemens' recommendations, but the recommendations of the Sober Home Task Force and also of a grand jury that was seated here in the state, or in this county. And I'm happy to report that we did pass the bill this year. The bill, amongst other things, cracks down on the unethical marketing practices that have been taking place in our community, where they've been basically luring people to a lot of these homes under false premises, handing out free plane tickets, free rent, and of course when they get to the home, they're very often not what was described in the beautiful flyer that had a beach and an ocean and a palm tree. So we really believe that the crackdown on those marketing practices is going to make a big difference. We're also involving DCF in a way that we've never involved them before. We gave some more power to a statewide prosecutor and the Attorney General's office. And so for the first time on a state level, we believe that there's going to be some tools in place really to go after some of these folks. As part of that, we also continue to fund the task force, not so much for additional recommendations, although we will be getting some of those, but really so that State Attorney Ehrenberg can continue his crackdown, which has been largely funded by state funds. So that will allow him to continue doing that work. And we really feel like this is, in my estimation, we've done some things in the past, but this is really the first big bold step forward that we've been able to take in dealing with this. We're not done, obviously. It's something that I feel like I'm going to be working on every year in the legislature. But nonetheless, along those same lines, I passed another bill that had to do with the amount of time that Doctors have to report opioid and Schedule 2 and Schedule 3 prescriptions. Right now, they were able to do that over a 7-day period. This restricts it now and says you have to do it by the end of business the next day. This will help with some of the doctor shopping issues that we have, where you're able to go and get a prescription with one doctor one day, another one the second day, another one the third day, another one the fourth. Now they'll be connected to a system that'll allow them in a short time period to see if there have been other prescriptions that have been given, and that will help them deal with the issue. For the first time, we passed a bill that deals with climate change, but it doesn't really address the words climate change. So that's always a good thing when you're dealing with government in Tallahassee, is to not use those words. But we're going to be requiring every state agency now to tell us how they're preparing for what we call natural hazards. And so, it's another phraseology, but nonetheless, each state agency now has to make a yearly report telling us how they're dealing with things like sea level rise, hurricanes, and other types of things that will affect us, and I think that's going to be a positive. We are disappointed, and I know Representative Berman and I voted against the budget because of some things having to do with education funding and we just heard from NAMI on mental health. We are, depending on who you look at, 49th or 50th in the nation in mental health funding here in Florida, and 50th in mental health funding for children. That's wrong. And we shouldn't be in the bottom 10% in funding for education, but we are. And there are a lot of categories like that, unfortunately. So it's always good to have a low tax state, and Florida is, I think, the 3rd or 4th lowest in the nation, depending on which one you look at. But we feel like we are deficient in some of the services we offer, and I think that's one of the reasons that Representative Berman and I decided that maybe with all the good things in this budget, there were still enough bad things that we weren't supportive. Talking about good things, for the 3rd year in a row, we have money in for the Boutwell Road, Lake Worth Park of Commerce. And I'm just going to be honest with you, this is the last year. There's $3 million in the budget, and each representative and senator only gets to have that kind of effect on a few items in the budget. And so, I represent 11 different municipalities. I know Representative Berman represents a lot as well. So I will tell you this. I've said to you in the past that it's our responsibility to get it in the budget, and then it's Lake Worth and your team's responsibility to keep it there. But I think I've had conversations with the governor's office that I've never had in the past, and I feel cautiously optimistic this year. I mean, anything can happen over the next few weeks. There's a lot of back and forth. There's discussion about whether the governor will veto the budget or veto portions of the budget having to do with Enterprise Florida and Visit Florida and his desire to see more money for those particular line items. But my urging to you would be to call whoever and everyone that you know in Tallahassee and try to make sure that the governor preserves that $3 million that we were able to get in the budget this year for Boutwell Road. One other thing, and I'll turn it over to Representative Berman, there was a joint resolution passed by the House and the Senate that would place an item on the ballot in 2018 having to do with an additional homestead exemption. And you know how the homestead exemption works. It's some people like to say it's a tax break, and I guess it is for some, but it really is a tax shift. And what it does essentially is shift the burden from homeowners to new homeowners, small business owners, renters. And so my perspective on that is we already have an uneven system of taxation here in the state of Florida, and this exacerbates that. So I voted against it, but it was passed. It will be on the ballot. About potential for losing about $650 million of revenue statewide as a result of that. And of course, look, that is a tax break for people who are, especially those those homeowners that feel like they're being squeezed. But most places in the state still haven't gotten back to 2007, 2008 revenue bottom lines. And I was sitting in that very seat in 2007, 2008, and 2009 when we lost a quarter of our revenue in the city of Lake Worth. So, however the cities decide to handle that, but it is an issue for you that you're all going to have to deal with in 2018, and it will have a significant impact on your bottom line that I know is not flush with cash. So something to consider, and the voters are going to have to consider. Is it important enough to save some money and potentially either lose some services or have to see the tax rate jacked up on renters and on business owners? Having said that, I'll turn it over to Representative Berman, and then we'll, I'm sure, stay for questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Clemens. And I have to say, he's done an amazing job on sober homes, and I know that's a huge issue here for the city, and you really have the #1 champion in the state with Senator Clemens on that issue. I'll start with a little bit of the good news having to do with local government, and that has to do, we did pass a bill regarding public records requests, and I know that that's been a big issue. And what the bill says is the complainant can only get their attorney's fees and costs if they provided written notice to the city's custodian of the records request 5 business days before filing a civil action. So this was a bill that was promoted by the Florida League of Cities and Counties, and it did pass. So it's going to be, at least there's a little bit more protection for you when we have some of these abusive records requests that we've seen going on in the past. So that's a good positive. Now, preemption. This year, for whatever reason, there was a raft of preemption bills this year, and many of them passed through. And you know, the League of Cities and the League of Counties worked really hard and tried to make them as palatable as they could. So I'll go over some of them. One of the biggest ones was the fight that we've had continuously in the legislature for the last couple of years, having to do with Lyft and Uber. So the state did preempt local governments from regulating transportation network companies such as Lyft and Uber now. And in doing so, the state put a lot of requirements on the companies about having to do with insurance and background checks for the drivers. So that was part of the preemption deal, was that we were going to make sure, hopefully, and we've seen in the news lately some things which are troubling, but hopefully the people who use the services will be able to be safe because of what we've done in the legislature. We also did a drone preemption bill, but local governments still retain authority to relating to nuisances, voyeurism, harassment, reckless endangerment. So you can control those things, but you can't outlaw drones specifically. Another bill has to do with public works projects. So if you do a project and 50% of the money comes from the state, there are very significant requirements on what you can do. You can't require contractors to pay certain wage rates, provide employees specific amounts of benefits. You can't limit the staffing on a particular job. So that's one of the things when you're taking projects that have more than 50% government funding you should be aware of. Another bill, believe it or not, this list keeps going on and on, has to do with charter schools. And this one's pretty troubling. It preempts all local government review and approval, including zoning and site plan approval, when facilities such as churches, theaters, or community centers are converted to charter schools. So if a charter school comes into one of those facilities, you will not be able to have anything to do with zoning or site planning. There was a construction bill that had a lot of preemption, and the most significant part of that had to do with the design and construction of signage that had to do with franchise activities. So you need to be aware of that. And then the last bill that passed, so the list keeps growing, has to do with 5G. So we all know right now our phones are all 4G. And the state is moving forward like the rest of the nation, having 5G. And that was a very, very huge concern with the counties and the cities, because there were discussions about aesthetics and about costs. So the two parties the counties and cities worked very hard with the utilities. And I voted against the bill twice. I saw it twice in committee, and I voted twice against it because I wanted more compromise on all parties' part. And then in the end, they agreed on all the aesthetics provisions. The one provision that was a little sticking point, but the bill passed, is that you can only get $150 per attachment per year. So be aware of that. If we need to come back and look at that again, we can always look at it again, but that's the bill that went through this session. So those are a snapshot, a little bit of some of the preemption issues. And I always like to close with just what I think is probably the silliest bill of the session that we passed. And that's that now when you buy a lottery ticket, it will say that on it, it has to say on it that gambling is addictive. So that's the news from Tallahassee this year.
Thank you both so much for all the hard work you do.
Sure.
Really, really appreciate it. I guess, I mean, this homestead thing is really tough for our city, you know. We've sat here and had these conversations, and I keep trying to make this point about, you know, people often think that we go, because you say Lake Worth out at Lantana, Hypoluxo and Jog and all these other places, but our city is really 7 square miles. We go to Boutwell Road in the ocean. So when we're forced to make decisions on anything, and where we collect our tax base from and everything else, we're 7 square miles. So we're not out to Ibis Country Club at 441 and Hagen Ranch Road. So when we get hit, when our property values are $120,000, you know, average property values, that extra exemption for us, you know, so how do you make up for that? Well, you make up for maybe in commercial at the Park of Commerce, which is their second one. So I appreciate, you know, you're fighting in both of these arenas. We certainly, you know, if we're gonna have to deal with one, we certainly hope the other one will come through. So at least give us a fighting chance to continue bringing in taxes and providing the good quality services that we're now able to provide, and hopefully more and better in the future. But I appreciate your fighting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Key
Commissioner
words
Robinson?
were Tallahassee doing to us instead of for us. And was there any conversation or any change in the sunshine law?
There was actually a bill that was discussed in the House where they were going to change the sunshine law to allow 2 representatives to talk, 2 city councilmen, but it did not pass in the House, and there was a lot of very strong opposition to it. So, and then there's always changes every year in public records exemptions, and what falls within those exemptions, but that particular bill addressed legislatures. And
Thank you for trying to work with others.
Thank you. Commissioner Hardy?
Yeah,
Does anyone have their phones near the microphones? Because some,
not mine, mine's not doing
Mine's in my
Mine's in my pocket. It's
okay. Commissioner Maxwell, can you move your phones away from the microphone? We're getting some sort
Oh,
of
you're
feedback.
blaming me?
No, everybody else has moved them but you. I'm not singling you out. Would you like me to? No. Commissioner Hardy, please.
Sorry. Is it possible for either of you to just kind of explain the legislation that we saw kind of tucked into the budget as far as education goes and why you opposed it? You know, we have several schools here in Lake Worth, huge contingent of teachers. I'm one, I teach at a Title I school. I'd love to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, there were, first of all, that bill was put out on Friday afternoon, and we had to vote on Monday, and it was, I think, 262 pages. And they combined everything into one bill, a lot of different bills that were, and so, including some bills that didn't even pass. The one I had trouble with there's 2 big bills in it, which are part of it. One is $150 million for something called Schools of Hope. And basically what it is, it says that a private charter school can come in right next to a failing school and siphon the children off from that school. In Palm Beach County, we actually don't have any schools that qualify for Schools of Hope, which is great news. The bad news is we will not get any of that $150 million. And that hurts our budget, so it's troubling. And then the other really disturbing part of that bill was something they call, which we've had for a couple of years, they call the best and brightest. And what it is teachers' salaries, and now they even put principals in, will be based on how you did on your SAT or your ACT while you were in high school. I really have a significant problem with that. I don't think that there's a correlation between your testing ability and your ability to be a good teacher. I was a great test taker, but I'm never been a teacher, and I don't think I would be a particularly good teacher at that. So those are some of the reasons why I voted against the bill. Do you want to add on?
I think you basically said it, but it's not just about this year's bill, it's about a continued pattern of siphoning off money from our public school system. The overall per student increase will be a few bucks for some school districts, and actually will go down for some other school districts depending on the formula. But it added up to, at the very most, a 0.5% increase in the per student funding. That doesn't even keep pace with inflation. So the overall education budget and this education bill, what they do is and this is nothing new, by the way. It just, the way they did it this year was particularly egregious. But they fold in a couple of good policies like recess, getting rid of some of the excessive testing that we have, and they fold that in with policies that divert money from our public schools and then try to wrap it all up with a shiny bow and get us to support it. It passed the Senate 20-18. And you heard Representative Berman say it came on the last couple of days of session, but it came in what we call a conforming bill, which is a bill that is attached to the budget that you can't amend. All you can do is just vote yes or no on it. So that's bad policy too. It's not really the way we should be doing things, and normally actually not the way we do things in Tallahassee.
Well, thank you both very much. Commissioner Mercer?
Just real quick, so you said that passed?
It did. In fact, if it had not passed, the budget wouldn't have passed. So it is that bill in particular is House Bill 7069. If you happen to be on Twitter or Facebook, you've probably seen the outcry for the governor to veto that over the past week or so, both from conservative and liberal quarters in the state of Florida. They've asked the governor to veto that, and he says he's considering it right now.
And in closing, our lobbyist, Richard Pinsky, is here in the room. And I just wanted to thank both of you for working closely with Richard. A lot of times we can't make it to Tallahassee, so we rely on Richard to do our dirty work, so to speak. And thank you for working so closely with him and hearing our cries.
Well, it is a process, but I will tell you, when you all come to Tallahassee, it makes a difference.
Thank you.
Sometimes we get in a bubble up there. I liken it to a casino. There's no windows. You can't really tell what time it is. You're stuck in there. You're gambling with other people's money. And so
They're pumping oxygen in.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it really does make a difference when I know, it's always tough to find funds to have people come to Tallahassee, but you're talking about millions and millions of dollars of your revenue and how you can or can't help your local communities continue to grow and prosper. And so I think it's important that you come, and we always encourage you to be there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
thank you all.
Thank you.
You can call us anytime. Or you can just walk 2 blocks to my office, either way.
We know where to find you. Thank you again. Okay, moving on to presentation D, the Neighborhood Road Program update. Who's in charge of this?
I think I am.
Mr. Shields, there you go.
Brian Shields, Water Utility Director, City Engineer. I'm going to give you a very brief update on the Neighborhood Road Program this evening. We are following it up with the WGI Media Group, who's going to give you an overview of the website. So we do have a presentation to follow what I present to you this evening. And I'm just following up my previous presentation to you all related to the Neighborhood Road Program and the schedule. Just a very brief update. Design work. The year 1 design is well underway. All the consultants are at about 75% completion in the design. They were all on budget, and we're keeping them under budget. That's our goal. Year 2 task orders were issued to all those consultants as well. They're off to the races on those, and those are in full-blown design as well. We've been continuing to do public outreach meetings. We probably have at least 1, sometimes 2 a week of those. Many commissioners have been at those meetings to see how they're going and the flair of those meetings. We have more meetings to follow up this month, June, July, and August for public outreach. We continue to keep the residents and their desires in our wishes. Construction work, tonight you actually have an agenda item under the consent item for award of the 5 construction contractors that will be working on the road work and what we call push-button contracts. Those contracts are unit price contracts with numerous items that we can issue work orders to those contractors and get the work done expeditiously without having to go for formal bidding, because we've already bid the prices and we've selected them based on best value, including their qualifications. We expect the year 1 construction of road, those types of projects to begin in June. And so again, we're right on schedule. And then the combination utility and road projects, which are much more complex, those will be coming to your way early in the fall. Some of the push-button work is actually underway already in conjunction with the 2-inch water main replacement. We're in College Park right now on the 2-inch replacement program. With that, some of the road work is being accomplished at the same time. So those on Notre Dame, Auburn, Harvard, Yale, and Harbor Court will notice the work that's ongoing right now. Those roads will be completely done actually before the end of the summer. Quick update on the bond issue. The bond issue, we did receive our credit rating. Maria's not here right now, so I won't speak to financing. However, we did get a Standard & Poor's rating of AA, and we got a Moody's rating of A1, which are both good for investors and good for our interest rates. So that was a very good accomplishment on the part of the finance division. Overall, things are doing well. We do have a program manager in place. Dick Haskell is here this evening. He's with the Wantman Group. They are our overall program manager. They're herding all the cats of the consultants and contractors and all that. And they're going to follow me right now with presentation that they've got ready to go for you on the public outreach program and on the website deployment. So if you want to take it away, Jennifer?
Mr. Schultz. Good evening, Mayor, members of the Commission. My name is Jennifer Hoffmeister. I'm Director of Public Planning for WGI, but I also serve as the city's public information and involvement coordinator. My responsibility as a coordinator is to ensure consistency and to act as a point of contact for the city. With me, alongside me here, is Javier Alaya, and he is the website design developer. The website that we have for the Lake Worth Neighborhood Road Program is just one element of the overall public involvement plan that we have created for the city's Neighborhood Road Program. The purpose of the plan is to ensure consistency and to ensure that all of the affected residents are involved in the process. The public involvement plan was distributed to all of you at the beginning of the meeting, and this document consists of goals, objectives, and strategies that will guide the public involvement outreach efforts on a citywide basis and consistent for each of the different districts. Consists of goals, objectives, and strategies, and there are 5 attainable goals that are provided in that document. Those being to inform, to consult, to involve, to coordinate, and to assess. Within that document, there are standardized checklists of public involvement activities that are done on a district-wide basis. For instance, each of the districts will have, with the start of every year, an overall district-wide meeting for that particular year. In addition, every project, a specific project for those districts, will have neighborhood meetings that are design-oriented to have more interactive involvement with the residents to ensure that their issues and their desires for their neighborhood roads that are under construction or will be under construction are taken into consideration. We are maintaining a hotline that is being maintained at WGI, and it will be multilingual to include not only the English speakers, but also Spanish and Creole residents of Lake Worth. And lastly, which is the subject of tonight's meeting, is the website. And I will go through on a step-by-step basis of the website. There are 2 ways that a person can gain access to the website. One is through the website's URL, which is lakeworthroad.com, and the other being through the city's website. Right now, we're at the city's homepage. And lastly, which is the subject of tonight's meeting, is the website. I will go through on a step-by-step basis
It's coming off the website. You're on the website.
gain access to the website. So what do I do?
We're live, so.
That was
weird.
I apologize for that. That was a little opener. Okay. All right, so now we're here at the homepage, and
Deja vu all over.
okay, the homepage provides for the information, some history on the bond that was passed by the residents in November 2016. It also provides for some history and some education on how each of those roads were selected, and it also provides for a video that WGI did a few weeks ago. And I do encourage everyone to view that video at your leisure. As you scroll down further, there is a tax impact calculator that is done based on property ownership, and it provides for annual and end of the year till the bond, to the ending of that bond. And lastly, the team is provided at the end of the website, beginning with the mayor and the city commission, local officials, into the neighborhood association presidents, all of those listed, the city management team, all the staff, and lastly with the outside consultants. Moving on to the next tab, and I should note also that if you scroll all the way over it, everything within on the website is able to be translated into different languages. So, and that can turn on at the beginning. Again, going on to the second tab, which is the master plan. And what this shows, it displays a map of the city broken down into the 4 districts. Each of the roadway projects that have been selected for improvement under the bond program are shown in black. So to zoom in here. And there are two ways that you can find out information on what is going on those roads, and I will demonstrate that. So I select this road right here. It'll select that's Collier Avenue. Click this arrow, it then gives you the link or that segment of the roadway, the district, and what year the improvements will take place. Secondly, you scroll down and each of the districts, 1 through 4, color-coded, provided down below. And you can click on the schedule here. Which then lists all those roads by year. And let's do an example here. We'll type in Collier. And it lists all of the segments of Collier Avenue that will be improved under the road program and the year in which that will occur. And then lastly it also provides on this tab definitions and types of repair that are common to roadway improvement projects, and we do anticipate that there will be more definitions that we will add to this section of the website. Moving on to the meetings tab. This shows the meetings by month. For instance, on May 11th, that was our kickoff for District 1, Year 1 projects. For any of those who were not able to attend, the video is provided below. And as all of the meetings will be videotaped, and within a day or so, that video will be put onto the website. And this week, we have one coming up on the 18th, and this is District 4 meeting. And when you click that on, it then lists all of the roadways that are part of Year 1 within District 4. And it also provides the door hangers and flyers that were distributed, and again in 3 different languages, English, Spanish, and Creole. Okay, moving on to the news tab.
Where's the location for the meeting?
All of the meetings are held here at City Commission.
Does it say that on there?
It does say that on the flyer,
Oh.
and then I will also reiterate that in the frequently asked questions. It does have that in there. But on the flyer, it does have the location. And then the news tab, we will have this updated as news as we identify any news articles that come in. Right now, we just have the initial one. This is the one that we have found, but we anticipate more news articles to come, and we will post them. WGI will post them. In addition, we have Twitter feed here on the left, which will come from our public involvement firms, and they will be sent to WGI, and then we will post them on our website. Moving on to the contact tab. There are 3 ways to get in touch with us. That is to type in right here on the website any questions you have, and it goes directly to our email, which is also provided, the contact email for the Lakewood Road program, and then our hotline. And again, that hotline is in 3 different languages. Our frequently asked questions tab is the last tab right now. And here are some frequently asked questions, and the answers are provided. Where is the community outreach meetings where do they take place? And the answer is provided here. And all of the meetings so far are from 6:30 to 8 o'clock. And we do anticipate that there will also be an additional tab for like a photo gallery as pictures start taking place, and we are going to be, from the beginning to end, taking pictures of the roads and posting them on the website. And again, I do encourage all of you to watch the video. It is worthwhile. That's accessible right from the homepage.
Thank you. One suggestion, just that, we know the districts that we're in, but not all of the residents know the districts. So when you're, maybe to put somewhere on the projects page, District 1 is the parameter of here to here and here to here, because like I said, people that are.
On master plan page, there is, under the schedules,
is there? Okay.
section, it lists each, of the neighborhoods.
It does, okay.
Yeah,
HOAs.
so
Or down here.
down here it says District 1 is Mary Hills,
Okay,
Pine
great,
Avenue,
great,
all
great,
that.
great.
And also, if you type in an address here,
It'll go
take
right
you
to that
there,
location.
and then-
Okay, beautiful. I didn't see that, sorry, thank you.
Yeah, and then
And also in all of the templates for our flyers and door hangers, we are now color coding them per district that match with the map, and also lists all the neighborhoods that are within that district.
Beautiful. No room for error, okay. Commissioner Marzo?
Okay, just to piggyback on that one, on the website and then also on the flyers, are you listing the elected that represents that district? Because a lot of times I get calls for other districts and I'm willing to help them, but they don't necessarily know who or what district they're in.
We absolutely can. That's a very
So
good
if you can,
suggestion.
that way they can reach out to us too and we can direct them or help them maneuver through if they can't get a hold of somebody. And then on the contact, I just lost my train of thought. Can you pull up the contact again? On the contact, could we put a little bit more on there? Because what I get a lot of calls of, can I get my sidewalk repaired? Are you gonna have street calming? What, maybe just a little suggestion of what they can leave in a message.
Okay.
Tell us about your concerns in and around your home. Something, short and sweet, but, it kind of gives them a suggestion. Yeah, this is where I can put in that my sidewalk is broken, or I would like to see street calming, or whatever it may be.
Okay, absolutely.
Thank you.
Commissioner Robinson?
The contact, you have public outreach. Does that mean public input as well? I mean, are you the first person to contact?
Yes, the way that it operates right now, the email address and the hotline goes to my phone and to my email.
You've got 8 people under districts. Are they going to be going to neighborhood association meetings?
Well, each of the district representatives for the public involvement firms will be actually orchestrating those meetings. I'm at every single one. But
Neighborhood association meetings, not your meetings. Are these 8 people going to go to individual neighborhood association meetings?
if we are asked to attend any of those meetings, we absolutely will be there, but it's not our
If
intention
you're
to
about
go to
public
all of them.
outreach, I would think that would be for a good start.
Okay.
So I'm suggesting that each one of your 8 people not miss any neighborhood association meetings.
And it has also been decided that we will, if this is your pleasure, send out the notices for meetings within your district so that each of you are aware of what meetings are coming up. We could send those door hangers and flyers to you all.
Jamie?
For the record, Jamie Brown, Public Services Director. To address Commissioner Robertson's comment, myself and Brian Shields would be attending the neighborhood meetings like we typically do, and then we would take that input and bring it back. We do have a budget that we like to stick to.
Who's paying for these 8 people to be public outreach? I'm trying to understand the division of labor here.
Yeah, built into the bond program was the actual program management portion of it. So that falls under
So
that.
these 8 public outreach are management, not, I'm just trying to understand public
Is he
outreach.
looking at the overall?
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure what you're looking at.
We have a lot of PR and.
So it's just the actual list of WGI staff? Okay,
That are doing it, like Laura South has District 4.
That's each of the.
All across the bottom.
And I'm concerned because I'm going to miss my first conflict of schedule. I'm going to miss my district.
Yeah, when we did the entire program, we obviously have a different engineering firm for each of the 4 districts. Also, for each of those districts, each of those firms hired a PR firm, which will be running each one of these meetings. So those are actually 4 separate
So we
companies.
can't direct them to go to the neighborhood. You're gonna, you're.
Correct.
Our two most important people of the project are gonna have to go to each one of the neighborhoods.
That's correct, because obviously,
That's
we pay for any meetings they attend and everything like that, so we do have to keep budget in mind as well.
I know they have, but if we're paying for public outreach, okay.
Yeah, we take back any kind of information we get from meetings, that way we're not, spending a lot of our budget sending people to a lot of meetings.
So we're paying them by the hour? Is that, I mean,
Correct. That is
okay.
correct.
Oh, well then, by all means. I'll expect to see you there.
A lump sum would have been nice, but no, everything is by the hour. So.
Just to clarify, because I don't want people to get the wrong impression, the way we set this up in the original discussions, engineers are great, they're wonderful people, but we really wanted people that were good at engaging the community to come out and talk to the engineers. So having the PR firm is to go out and make the handshake, tell the resident what's going on, and to coordinate everything to get them engaged in the process of talking to the engineers about their road project. And that's why you see the 4 different firms working with the 4 different engineering firms. And that was the intent. Having these guys as part of their job duties, they go to the neighborhood meetings and they're good conduits.
Commissioner Hardy?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, there may be some minor issues, things we can add with the website, but I thought you guys did an absolutely superb job. I was on it the other day. It was very user-friendly. I couldn't imagine anything more that anyone would actually need there. I think the frequently asked questions part was very, very good. It answered pretty much every question that I could possibly have. I know, there may be some people who are more inquisitive than I am, who may have questions that aren't on there, but I think as a first step, it's really great. The kind of in line with Commissioner Robinson's question, the project-specific neighborhood meetings having to do with specific projects, are those going to be done through the neighborhood associations, or is it going to be, let's say that you have, some street repair being done on Collier? Are you going to just talk to the people who live on that particular street? How are you going to approach the idea of neighborhood and neighborhood meetings?
Those meetings are actually marketed just toward the people on those streets, and we do the door knockers and everything like that. That way we get input from the people that actually live on that street,
right,
and can give us input as well. There's always speeding here, we see a lot of wrecks here, or they can give us actual input versus someone coming from maybe another district who's not familiar with that area.
Right.
And then you have people putting input on a project that really aren't there.
Okay.
So and obviously they're open to everyone, but when we actually do door knockers and everything, it's marketed for people that are actually living there.
That sounds like a wonderful plan to get the right information.
Correct.
But one thing if I could add, what I did learn just in communication with feedback, a phone call that I received, that from here on out, although they are project specific and the residents who live within that, on that road, those roadways will receive the door hangers, out of courtesy, we will be sending out flyers to each of those neighborhood associations that are within that district, so that, again, and to the commissioners, that everyone knows what is taking place during that month. And that was some of the feedback that I got this past week.
Okay, thank
Excellent. Commissioner Amoroso?
And I just wanted to piggyback real quick. When we implemented Jamie and Brian going out, I think it was a great thing. The people actually get to, see you, and in 4 years when the project's gone, you're going to be gone. And you're going to do a fabulous job, but you're going to be gone. And these are the people and the faces that our people are going to be dealing with. I've attended a meeting with Brian where he came out and talked about the water. And it was really, really great meeting. It was well received. All the questions were answered. So, at the end of the day, I get where Mr. Robinson's coming from. But at the end of the day, you are the two faces that they need to see on a regular basis.
And we go to those meetings anyway. It's just now we actually have money.
You can actually do some of the things that people want.
Thank you all. Thank you. Oh, Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I wanted to thank you for your presentation tonight. And as you know, I've been to a few of your meetings, and your presentation is well done as the actual meetings themselves. I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from the folks. Again, you're speaking directly to the people that are being impacted by these roads, and I think that's the best way to get the best final product for everybody concerned. So thank you for your efforts. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mayor.
Commissioner
While-
Robinson?
While Jamie's here, could I ask about Second Avenue?
Yes, sir.
CDBG,
Yes, sir.
when's that gonna happen?
That's not on the agenda item, right? We're doing this.
I thought we were talking about roads.
Those plans are being finalized right now.
And
We're talking about Second Avenue South from Dixie to Federal. That is
When-
correct.
When are we gonna start work?
We're hoping to have the final plans, I believe, I can't remember if it's next week or the week after next. So we're looking summertime, getting going.
Thank you.
Obviously, once we get the final plans, we have to go through the whole bid process, and select the contractor and everything, but we are moving quickly on that as fast as we can.
Is that quickly? Okay.
There's a whole design process we have to go through.
He's not very patient, is he?
We're moving as fast as the process will allow us.
Okay, boys, stick with the agenda item. Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Liaison reports and comments. Commissioner Robinson, you're up first.
I'll be quick. I've been to several neighborhood association meetings, and the growth and enthusiasm and leadership, I say it again and again, is growing and fantastic. And I look forward to next week's workshop on the casino complex and the beginning of our work together to have that project improved as soon as realistically possible. And I would also hope that we get an internal auditor while we're in the budget process. And that's it.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Thank you.
I'm scattered. I'm going to shake it up tonight.
So we have to pay
Left, go
attention?
right.
We have to pay attention?
You never know.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended a couple of cool events recently. This past Friday, there was a travel rally day event held at the casino put on by Discover the Palm Beaches. It was quite interesting. There was a number of folks representing the different tourism entities around the county, be it hotels or transportation, whatever the case may be. And it was interesting to know that Palm Beach County continues to break records year after year as far as the number of tourists that are coming to Palm Beach County, the number of nights that are being spent here in Palm Beach County, and the amount of money that are being spent here in Palm Beach County. And I'm hoping that, now that the Gulf Stream looks like it's going to be getting some action here, that we'll be a little bit more active with Discover the Palm Beaches and some of their programs to see if we can't start diverting some of that tourism into Lake Worth that we can actually, quantify and identify. I know we get tourism here. Of course, we know we have tourism, but I'd like to be able to have a more meaningful relationship with them so we can have better statistics as to exactly what type of tourism dollars and interest we have here in the city. Also, this past Saturday, there was a CRA, I guess you call it a cleanup or spruce up, if you will, the fitness park on 8th Street, which was a really good time. If you all have been down there on 8th Street, just north of 2nd Avenue North, there's a fitness center there. We had an opportunity to put down some fresh mulch around the playground and mulch around the plantings or whatever, and there was a demonstration by a local fellow on how to best plant and harvest pineapples. I didn't realize that it takes a couple of years for a pineapple to actually be a pineapple. But I guess they're easy to plant and to grow, but it just takes a little bit longer. So now I have a greater appreciation for that pineapple that I love so much and how long it takes to get to my table.
You're growing.
I know.
Expanding.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I've attended a number of neighborhood meetings as well, and to that point, I've been working with the city manager over the last several months and kind of twisting his arm and working with them. And actually, I really have to twist his arm too much, but kind of identified a scenario that I think we needed to address as far as the communications between the neighborhood associations and City Hall. And that was that oftentimes I find myself going to a neighborhood association meeting and just sitting back and listening, and issues are being brought up in the neighborhoods that are more in the form of a question as it relates to the city activities and what the city is or isn't doing. And I know I find myself coming back to city staff saying, well, can you send somebody back to such and such neighborhood and give them an update on such and such initiative or question? So the proposal that I gave to the city manager, which is accepted, is that the city take a more proactive role in communicating with the neighborhood associations directly instead of a reactive role. So the plan basically is that on a 3-time-a-year basis, the city would invite one or two individual leaders from each of the neighborhood associations to come and sit down with staff, okay, in the same room. The city manager, PVSO, code enforcement, public services, whoever the case may be, and allow the neighborhoods to come and lay out their concerns, their questions or whatever, and be able to get some of the things they're concerned about in real time done with all the people that are at the table at one time, so that we're not chasing each other with emails and whatnot. So I'm very excited about that. I had an opportunity at the Neighborhood Presidents Association President's Council, to share that invitation, and I'm looking forward to that program being rolled out very, very soon. Also, I see a couple people here. Brings me to the point where I want to recognize 4 of our residents. I don't know, many of you have already heard that in the last couple of weeks, some of our residents have taken it upon themselves to go down to the sheriff's jail, the stockade, for first appearance, for some of the folks that have been, prostitutes and others who are picked up here in the city and they have to go before a judge. And these folks have taken the challenge to actually go down and present themselves to the judge and to kind of give the judge an overview of the impact that these folks are having in our community. In the very short time, we're seeing results from their participation. Instead of these folks being let go on their own recognizance or time served or whatever, the judges in some cases are actually, I guess, mapping, if you want to call it that, mapping these folks, saying, look, you cannot be on, as part of your condition of your release, you cannot be on Federal Highway, you cannot be on Dixie Highway. If you do, we're going to put you in jail, you're going to stay there. So I want to recognize 2 people that are in the room, Richard Curcio, Tammy Pans in the back, also Chip Guthrie and Chris Ide, for taking the initiative and going down and doing that. I know they're trying to work through the NAPC to really rally up some more support throughout the community and come up with a more systematic way of going down and representing the city of Lake Worth before these judges. And I think that that's a really great effort, and I think it's going to pay dividends for us down the road. I think the word will finally get out on the street that the citizens want to take our streets back. So I want to thank them, and I want to thank Captain Bear for his, again, bringing this issue up. I know that's always been available to us, but these 4 people took the initiative to actually get out there and do it. So I applaud you and thank you very much for that. I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that. In fact, if the commission doesn't mind, and I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but perhaps we could invite somebody in that group maybe to come back in a month or 2 and give us a brief update, a report on how the system works and how people can get involved, and have more of a formal presentation. And lastly, everybody's having birthdays these days. Well, I woke up yesterday, much to my surprise. One of my favorite guys in the whole world had another birthday, and that would be Commissioner Robinson. He had a birthday yesterday, so we want to wish you a happy birthday.
We were going to be brief tonight.
Well, I'm being brief. So you had a birthday, which is pretty cool, but what's even more cooler, is that right, more cooler? And I don't want to...
Beer cooler. That's what.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like Bigley.
It's really, I'm so impressed. If you all know Herman and you know Laurel, they're coming up on their 50th wedding anniversary later this month, and they're going to be traveling back to the Northeast to celebrate their 50th wedding anniversary. So I just think it's a huge milestone for any couple. So I don't think we're going to see him formally maybe before they go, but congratulations to you and Laurel, and happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday.
Commissioner Amoroso.
I want to start by thanking Captain Bear and his staff. You didn't really hear much about it, but they had a great, for lack of a better word, sting this weekend. They caught a lot of bad guys. You'll be hearing about that soon. They're still working on some of the cases, but took a little different tactical look at the city of Lake Worth, and got a lot of bad guys off the street this weekend, so thank you. Upcoming events: National Beach Safety and Rip Current Awareness Week, May 22nd through the 29th, up at the beach. If you haven't seen the lifeguards actually do their safety demonstrations, it's just a great thing. I mean, if you can make it up there one of those days and they do the full, they go out, they save somebody, it's just a great learning experience. Last couple years, I've been doing the Red Nose Day. If you don't know what Red Nose is, please Google it and get involved. Usually I meet the local resident children at Hoffman's Chocolates, and we have some great ice cream. but unfortunately Hoffman's is no longer there. This year we're going to take it a little and do it a little different. It's going to actually be in the plaza Thursday, May 25th from 4 to 6. We've got a lot of people participating. The zoo gym is going to come out. Actually, Walgreens and Red Nose will be there. So, you know, stepping it up this year, and it's just a great fundraiser. Compass, Stonewall Ball is coming June 24th. Great fundraiser for Compass. Vendor packet and sponsorships are out for the 4th of July. So if you want to be a vendor or you want to sponsor the 4th of July's event, please come out. Mango Festival coming up May 17th. Last year, huge success. They're still looking for vendors. Just a great day. I sit on the board for Palm Beach County League of Cities as the city's representative. I'm very happy to say I was reappointed to that board, and tomorrow I will be sworn in, so we'll continue to have a seat on that board, and Lake Worth will be at the table. Also tomorrow is our Sober Home Task Force meeting. So right after the swearing in, I'll run down the street to the police department and attend the Sober Home Task Force. And it's going to be quite interesting tomorrow. If anybody can attend, the public can come. But it's the first meeting we're going to have since the legislation has passed. You heard Senator Clemens and Lori Berman say that the legislation that we wrote on the task force actually passed. There were groups of people there trying to pull things out. And luckily, knock on wood, we were able to get it past the House and the Senate. And then also, this is the first meetings that we will have since then, and then also since the governor actually declared a state of emergency. So there'll be a lot of funds coming available, and there'll be some heated conversation about, you know, what the best way to spend that money to get these people the best help we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardy.
Well, I have much less to say than my colleagues here. The first thing is that I'm new to this process of being an elected official, but I attended a League of Cities lunch for representatives from Districts 2 and Districts 3. It was held at the Atlantis Country Club. Sorry?
1 and 2.
I thought it was
Is it
2 and 3. No, it was
2 and 3.
it was 2 and 3. And so, you know, it was very interesting to have lunch with the other elected officials and to hear what's on their minds. I can tell you that the Blue Way Trail project, there's very strong interest in that from our neighboring elected officials, just as there's strong interest from certain of our residents here in Lake Worth, and I'm very much looking forward to that. The other thing was this CRA cleanup. I have to tell you a little bit about that. So I got that happened this Saturday that just passed, and it was at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I got home from chaperoning our 8th grade trip to Universal Studios at 5 in the morning. So I decided to go anyway, even though I was very tired. And, you know, I thought it was just going to be a normal cleanup project. We're out there picking up trash, things like that. And I knew I was in trouble when I saw Scott Maxwell with a rake. and so I, you know.
It's Commissioner Maxwell.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Maxwell. We're on the dais here. Commissioner Maxwell out there with a rake. And Vice Mayor Maxwell, gosh.
Will you stop?
So, the good thing is, the three of us commissioners who were there, it was Vice Mayor Maxwell, it was myself, and it was also Commissioner Herman Robinson. We got dirty, and I think we did a lot of good work. We replaced a lot of mulch, we raked a lot of leaves. We learned, as the Vice Mayor said, about xeriscape landscaping, which was very interesting, and I appreciated what the CRA did for my district in particular. And I hope that you know, it brings a little publicity to that fitness park, because I don't see enough people using it. So hopefully from here on out, given that it's clean, we have more people using it. The last thing I have to say is that tomorrow night I'm holding a meeting. If you are a resident of Vernon Heights, at 7 p.m. at Sunlight Community Church, that's right on A Street, 13th Avenue. We're meeting about the Lake Cove development, which may be occurring just south of the Vernon Heights neighborhood. I think it's a wonderful thing that land has you know, vacant for a very long time, and I think it's, you know, potentially a good thing that we could get 57 single-family homes there to add to the tax base. So if you're a resident of Vernon Heights and you're watching this, please come out tomorrow. I'm just coming to listen to your perspective. Thanks.
Thank you. Just a couple things. We didn't have a proclamation for this. There was nothing done, but I wanted to make mention. In 1962, President Kennedy declared May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and this week around the country will be National Police Week. Every year since 1982, members of our law enforcement community, their families and friends have gathered on this day in Washington, D.C. to mourn the fallen and remember their heroism through a memorial service. So I'd like in the future for us to do a proclamation on this day, but I found this and I want to make sure that I at least made mention that here in Lake Worth, we also want to pay respect to the sacrifices and memory of our fallen police officers and to extend our gratitude to those officers who proudly serve our community. So I'm glad you're here, Captain Bear. Thank you, and to all of you. A couple of other things legislatively. Well, first things first, it was mentioned before, Brian took the thunder out of the whole thing, but we got our rating, our A1 rating from Moody's Investor Service, so that was really great on the bonds, and AA from Standard & Poor's Financial Service. General obligation bonds are the financial instrument being used to pay for the Neighborhood Road Program, and remember, it's being drawn down in 2 installments. A press release was distributed on that, but great news that our bond ratings are great. Also, a press release out that the City of Lake Worth, Department of Community Sustainability, Planning and Zoning and Historic Preservation, in conjunction with Historic Resources Preservation Board and the Historical Society, will host a ceremony in the casino ballroom to present the first annual Lake Worth Historic Preservation Awards. That'll be on May 17th, 7 p.m., again at City Hall, at the City Casino building. We got a couple of notices. I know we had a legislative update today here. Congresswoman Frankel's office released this May 1st. Relief's finally on the way for local law enforcement agencies that are provided protection for the president. With the proposed federal funding bill, the Palm Beach County Sheriff and any other law enforcement agency that provided protection can apply for money to cover their costs. That was, I know, very talked about quite a bit. Us being kind of one of the southern filters of that traffic through Lake Worth when they shut down the island of Palm Beach and whatnot, had a lot of concern for some reimbursement for those forces, and that legislation went through. Also, another of out of Frankel's office was FEMA. You know, we've gone back and forth with FEMA in reference to Charlie, Francis, Jean, Wilma, and Katrina, and them coming back to a lot of municipalities and saying that you didn't have the right paperwork and we're not going to give you, and we want you to pay us back this amount of money. FEMA is requiring counties to pay back the federal government, but this new legislation, which is bipartisan, this is coming from Frankel with Dan Webster, Frederica Wilson, and Brian Mast, passed the legislation in the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. It now goes to the Senate for consideration, where Senator Bill Nelson has introduced a companion bill. So that's to offer release to municipalities in reference to that. And so that's a good thing. Keep your eye on that one. Sorry to be so legislative today, but a lot of good things happening, and I want you to be aware of them. Thank you all. Moving on to you.
Did Herman get an opportunity?
He did.
He did.
I was brief first.
I got the meeting here, okay?
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right, thanks.
Is that a word?
All right. Public participation of non-agenda items and consent agenda items.
One.
You want to? Joanne Golden, come on down. On deck? Who's on deck?
Good evening, everybody. Joanne Golden, 502 North Palmway. I don't know what's working here. In 1984, I traveled with Reverend William Sloan Coffin Jr. and other community activists and religious leaders to bear witness to the atrocities taking place in Central America. I had witnessed the horrors of refugee camps in El Salvador and Honduras and the destructions of villages and community. In 1989, the continued killing and the assassination of Father Ignacio Ellacuria, the rector of the Central American University, who is an exceptional man and a brilliant educator, I was honored to interview. The killing continues today, with environmentalists, lawyers, journalists, and workers risking their lives promoting justice around the world. I moved to Lake Worth in 1989 and felt that the city embraced all of its residents. There seemed to be a moral obligation to protect the most vulnerable among us. In 2004, the City Commission passed Resolution 02-2004 regarding Homeland Security and American economic security as they relate to undocumented residents in our community. In addition to confirming the economic and community advantages of our immigrant population, this resolution changed the wordage from undocumented aliens to undocumented residents. Again, in 2011, the City Commission passed Resolution 2010, whereas immigrants, this is a quote, are essential to the state of Florida's economy, and whereas the state of Florida, the city of Lake Worth, and our nation as a whole needs to deserves comprehensive immigration reform, which will stop current practices that result in dividing families, unnecessary fear in the immigrant community, and enforcement practices which are not effective or meaningful. We are known to be an inclusive city. The city has embraced our Muslim community, our lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community, and yet we have, so far, turned a blind eye to others who walk among us every day.
Thank you.
Please work to recommend to our county, state, and federal officials a renewed commitment to provide safety, security, and a welcome environment for us all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joseph Torres, followed by Greg Rice. Joseph Torres. Okay.
Hi, my name is Joseph Torres. I'm at 512 North H Street. Where are our lights? We're plagued with continuing deteriorating conditions. I know you guys are working hard, but we got a lot of work to do, as you're aware of, Mr. Commissioner Hardy. There are ongoing rooming properties from 4th, 5th, and 6th. You got multiple homes where property owners are renting out to overflowing families next door to me. This morning I had to fight with my next door CRA because from the time I moved in, she's had so many different people living in her house. Now she's got drug dealers living there, and people run up and down the side of my house. I fought and complained about the doors that I installed and spent $1,400 on that were removed to help eliminate some of this traffic that the city said I could put up, then turned around and said that the property owner could take down. Where is my $1,400? And who's gonna put my doors back up? I want some sort of, something done about this because it's just being ignored. I have bags sitting on the side of my house because my house is underwater. No one's doing anything about it. I've been in my house almost 4 years. You're getting letters notarized and certified from multiple properties on my block that are plaguing our community and are disgraceful and are unacceptable. And I'm not gonna continue living in my home in fear, period. Please forgive me, but you're getting a bunch of letters in the next few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg Rice?
Little microphone traffic up here. Great meeting tonight so far. I want to thank Representative Berman and, of course, Mayor Clemens for coming out and giving us that legislative update. Very informative. We win some, we lose some. Let's hope we can keep that money in for Boutwell Road, please, dear God. A lot of talk about neighborhood associations and their involvement within the city. I wholeheartedly agree that's probably been one of the best things, in addition to PBSO and a few others, that has happened to this city in a long, long time. And that being said, the Mango Groves Neighborhood Association meeting this Thursday night at Blue Front Barbecue, which resides within the confines of Mango Groves. After the flag ceremony here at City Hall, we have the honor of having Lake Worth City Pirate, because the Pirates of the Caribbean movie's coming out, so we thought we'd give them a little publicity. Our city manager is going to be speaking there. We're also inviting Chip Guthries to come in and talk about that first appearance opportunities, because Mango Groves presides inside the confines of both Dixie Highway and Federal Highway. So it's very important. It's important to all of us that we take time out of our busy schedules, even on the weekends, to be able to do something like that. And I applaud everybody that has done it. I also applaud those that will take the time out to do that. And the website looks great for the road project too. I want to commend whoever decided to hire professionals to do that and take some of the pressure off some of the city staff. It's something we need to do. Lake Worth is really starting to become a real city now. Thank you, guys.
You know,
Right.
you had me at Blue Front.
All right, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Amoroso, seconded by Vice Mayor. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to the public hearings. City Attorney, would you read the ordinance, please? Number 2017-8.
Yes, Madam Mayor, ordinance number 2017-08 of the City of Lake Worth, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Administration, Article 1 in general, Section 2-1, Sale of City-Owned Property to include unsolicited proposals as a method of selling city-owned surplus property, and to define in more detail the process for request for proposals, provide for severability, conflicts, codification, and an effective date.
Right, this is the second reading. We had the presentation the last move, and there was no, I don't believe, any opposition on the item at that time. So I'll ask for a motion.
So moved.
So I have a second.
Second.
Commissioner Robinson?
I'd like to make sure that we distinguish between city-owned property and surplus property, and that we should look at the properties and consider them, or look at them to consider them as surplus. I mean, you know, just being city-owned doesn't make it surplus, and so it doesn't make it available for sale.
Glenn, could you confirm that it's
Well, that's
written
true
that way,
that-
please?
That's true. The city manager has to recommend to the commission, and you have to determine that the property is surplus. And then it will go on the list, and this just expands the methods by which the city can dispose of that property. That is city-owned and surplus, both.
Okay.
Has to be both.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor and a second. Are there any public comment cards on this?
No, Madam Mayor.
Seeing there are none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to new business. Item 12A, City Attorney, would you read the ordinance for me?
With pleasure. Ordinance number 2017-09 of the City of Lake Worth, Florida, amending Chapter 21 Traffic, deleting sections 21-2, 21-3, and 21-22 as duplicative and outdated, and creating Article 3, Immobilization and Impoundment of Vehicles, to provide for an immobilization and impoundment of vehicles process, to address parking issues in the city, provide for severability, repeal of laws in conflict, codification, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor. You have a presentation?
Yes, we do, as a matter of fact. If I can get this microphone.
I think you're probably better off holding it because you're tall.
Hello, my name is Larry Lakefoot. I am the Parking Enforcement Manager here at the City of Lake Worth, Florida. We have a short PowerPoint, if we can get that going. Give her just 1 minute here.
She's here.
Sure.
Thank you. If you want, you know what, why don't we take a quick break while they get that working, and then we'll, here we go. Quick break, 5 minutes.
I was betting on a break.
We just talk amongst
Were
ourselves.
you really? I was gonna do it after, but I thought let's wait while they get that working.
There used to be one right behind.
So where's your press release?
Rather than break up.
It's already out?
So that wasn't so bad.
You want me to tell you how happy I am? Do you want to hear?
More. That's not bad. Get it.
Glad for all of them, I'll tell you. You look at the obituaries now, 58.
Yes, put the mics around. Why?
During the presentation, we, wanted to talk to Jamie, and she was going to put out. I know, that's why she was getting put out. I think I figured Andy would kick it.
I thought we were talking about roads.
Don't bring up stuff.
Yeah, now it's 7:30.
Did you get my press release?
I thought we were gonna take a break after Scott got done.
Please.
It wasn't, I have to go home to email it, because I can't do that from here. I did it on my phone.
You see that bass?
I have to go home to pull up my email.
One second. On J Street. You should back up now. How long did you stay on King? How long did you stay on King Kong?
I'd say about 12, 15 minutes. Yeah. It was interesting. It was a really good ride. I would go on it again. It's just,
Well, when technology breaks down, it breaks down.
it happens. It happens.
You also, yeah, I'm sure it's very expensive.
Well, it's because the verbiage for all of Gold Coast's questions are all the same. But when you get to the state's exam, they don't use the same question line of questions. It'll be interesting.
I talked to staff, I've been talking to staff for a while, and I talked to staff today about our regular maintenance people having a pressure washer and doing it more on a need be. You know, I was discussing, you know, the dirt around the sidewalk. You know, sometimes there's dog feces, sometimes there's puke. I mean, we are in a tourist district. That we need to step that up. So I talked to staff today at length about
Do you have to Really? So there has to be something on it. No, you have to do all that. That's why they do the dry race. That's fine for me, but for most people, it's probably not.
Well, the biggest problem I have with the businesses is if we don't, as a city, if we don't do it first, how am I to ask you to do it? So I'm trying to address it with the city that, you know, we do benches and common area, and then I've also told residents, if you have places that you like to eat or frequent, go and tell them, I'm no longer going to come here if you do not clean. Because Dave's Last Resort does it on a regular basis. Rogues does it on a regular basis. I do it in front of my store. But again, you know, if I'm going to eat at a certain restaurant, and I won't mention a name, I won't go there because if it's dirty when you walk in, it's not inviting. Absolutely. So as a resident, do that for us with the merchants that you.
Yeah, some of this stuff.
Well, and that's what I said too. I said, I'm not necessarily willing to throw extra money at it. You need to figure out how to fine-tune the workers that we gave, because years ago, you know, when I first got elected 6 years ago, we didn't have any downtown maintenance. We hired these people. I think we can do a better job of, you know, structuring their daily routine. Originally they were part-time, and then now they're full-time. So I think, well, and the leaf blowers, they sweep the street, they clean up. You know, I think in their repertoire we need to put in, we have a pressure cleaner. If you see this stuff, and more of a direction. I mean, there needs to, the managers need to step up and have more direction. You know, if I see it, you see it, they should see it.
Hi, Brian, how are you? Good. I never see you anymore. You never call, you never write.
It's the face.
They don't make those serious.
Maybe. Well, we have the new rubber mulch. I got that a year ago. The new rubber mulch allows the, around the trees not to become cigarette receptacle and gum and all that, and feces. So, you know, at least that rolls off. That gives these guys the ability to clean it. And that's great, but it gives us the ability to clean it and it doesn't catch. It's not a catch-all. So. That's my program. That's a grant through the CRA. I'm the liaison to the CRA, and we're slowly, you know, moving to get I want new trash cans with recycled.
The old one's on there.
You know, the double, dual, but they're costly. So I'm trying to get a grant.
For the rest of the properties.
No, because Melissa told me she had it done.
Yeah. And you know, the next step, you know, we don't make any money on bottles. Bottles is really sand, but and most of the places, unless it's a complete bottle, can't. Well, the big thing is paper. The big money maker is paper and cardboard. We're sending a lot of that to China.
Even
In different forms, yeah.
In the form of a comic book.
There you go. Yeah.
So did we pass so far the observation?
What is that? Women's vote, what? We have one of the best drinking waters. Number 7.
I just got a new water pipe in my backyard.
well, and also some of these properties.
They are ready. If the mayor is ready. Good.
Since you never met you.
I met you at one. You love our friend Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but again, we don't make those decisions. I wasn't happy about it.
They had this stuff in the bathroom and they sprayed it. Wow. Is it perfume? Like a perfume or something. Sorry for this.
Nope.
Yes.
Larry, you ready?
All right, we'll resume this Tuesday, May 16th, City Commission meeting. If everyone would find their seats, please. Quiet in the chambers. We're going to resume with item 12A. The ordinance has been read already for legal purposes.
That is
So we'll
correct.
continue with our presentation.
Okay. So to say, if you guys want to check out the, take a gander at the screen here.
Larry, hold the microphone up, please.
Go back. Did you go past one?
That is what happens. If
Okay, sorry, this is the beginning of it. This is City of Lake Worth. This is an immobilization and towing ordinance that we need. It's a tool in our toolbox. We will be able to immobilize vehicles and tow vehicles to actually bring them into compliance with laws that we actually do have. That's the reason for it. If we go to the next slide. This is what a boot looks like in case people don't know. This ordinance will allow us to immobilize vehicles that have accumulated at least 3 or more outstanding citations and are over 15 days old before we would even place one on it. So that would be anybody who just vagrantly does not obey the law. So that's what we're going to be doing. Purpose of this ordinance allows for the immobilization of vehicles that have accumulated 3 or more outstanding City of Lake Worth citations. Once paid, the device is removed. If not, it is towed at the owner's expense. Definitions: vehicle immobilization, incapacitating or immobilizing of a vehicle without permission of the owner, commonly called booting a vehicle. Vehicle towing and tow away, the towing of a vehicle that has been illegally parked or is so disabled that it impedes traffic flow and needs to be moved or towed. What this definition does really mean is the ordinance allows for the immobilization of booting of vehicles that acquire 3 or more citations that go unpaid over 15 days old, basically, and that's the reason that we're going to be doing it. The ordinance allows for the towing of vehicles that meets defined criteria, which I'm going to get to.
So that would be 45 days?
No, 15.
No,
30 days to pay the bill?
No, what happens is after you accumulate 3 citations or more, which many vehicles do have those. We have several vehicles that have more than 3 citations, and they blatantly are not paying them. So this would allow us to go out and boot the vehicle, so they would have 24 hours to pay that. Okay, and let me keep going. It'll explain a few of it. Criteria. Towing criteria includes a vehicle obstructing traffic, any disabled vehicle that is obstructing traffic, or the driver is incapacitated for any reason. When the vehicle is in violation of prior notices, i.e. construction zones or, for example, special events beginning. For example, maybe the street painting festival. If we need to have a car or a street that has vehicles on it, we can put prior notices on it the day before. If we come back the next day and they're still there and we need to move, we can tow them. That's exactly what we need. Criteria. Anytime a vehicle is obstructing traffic, can't get moved or be moved, we could tow it. Any disabled vehicle that is obstructing traffic or the driver is incapacitated, maybe they can't move it. Maybe they've had a medical condition. There's a lot of different reasons. The vehicle's in violation of prior notices, i.e. construction zones or special events beginning, which I just spoke about. Vehicle has received citations is left unattended for 24 hours or more, and we had a couple of incidents like that already.
One at a time. Commissioner Harding?
Can you describe what that means? If you go back
can you
one
go back?
slide, vehicle
Yes.
has received citations, is left unattended for 24 hours or more. Are you saying that you cited a vehicle?
Yes. Just for the record, what happened was we had a vehicle that was parked in a 4-hour zone over on Lake Avenue, and it was parked there several days. And according to our ordinance now, we cannot touch it. We wouldn't even be able to. So this would allow us to, within 24 hours, put a notice on it, give them 24 hours to move the vehicle after it's been cited, or if it was cited, then we could tow it after the 24th hour of the next day. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Criteria, and there's different ones that we can do and why we need to tow. When a person is taken into custody by a law enforcement officer, for any public safety issue, fire, flood, storm, or emergency issue, when a parking control device or tow away zone sign is posted, when a vehicle is parked in a no parking zone or a loading zone and driver cannot be located. And we need to have that vehicle moved for whatever reason. This is just an example of a warning notice I found. Ours would be similar to this, probably red most likely, but it does list the information that would be pertinent to that vehicle. There was a date, time, any fees owed, anything like that. All the information would be on one, and it would be adhered to the driver's side window so they could see it. The big question is why? To collect outstanding revenue owed to the city for parking citations and bring vehicle owners into compliance. That's what we're looking for here. To tow vehicles that are left unattended, abandoned on or blocking city right-of-ways. It aids the public and the city staff members to having vehicles moved that need to be moved. That's really the reason for it. Towing example, a vehicle parks, for example, like the one I said on Lake Avenue, and receives a citation on Monday. The parking enforcement officer observes the vehicle on Tuesday and places a citation on it and posts a warning notice informing the owner, operator, driver that the vehicle will be towed in 24 hours. If the vehicle will be towed or can be towed after the 24 hours if not moved. That's really what we want. We're just trying to get the vehicle basically moved out of the right-of-way. Sometimes flexibility just is not possible. When a vehicle's owner or driver knowingly violates the law, the city needs to be able to take action to bring it into compliance or remove it. When a vehicle is parked and is a hazard, illegally parked, and needs to be removed. That's other reasons. There are times when the vehicle operators disobey the law and continue to park illegally. They leave vehicles and do not return. They get arrested, obstruct traffic, park in no parking zones, own vehicles that are so disabled that they need to be removed for safety reasons. When these occur, the city will be able to immobilize or tow the vehicle when necessary. Questions?
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for your presentation. I'm just sitting here thinking in all my travels and, around the country, I'm just thinking, I can't believe we didn't have this on the books all along. I mean, I know we have no parking zones. I know we have, parking restrictions, 4-hour parking and things like that. I had no idea that we had no teeth to enforce any of that in the past. And I think this is probably, while it may come as a shock to some folks, and may be unpleasant to others, it's necessary. I mean, we live in a city that cars are they're kind of an issue, particularly when you get into our neighborhoods. These smaller lots, when they were built back in the day, cars were not commonplace. And not only are cars very commonplace today, now you have a number of people living in these homes that have cars. So we've, in many cases have car issues, and we really need to, and I'm just shocked that we didn't have these things in play. But I do have a couple of questions. Let's say, for example, let's say,
Get the boot on that guy.
Did that hurt?
No.
Okay. Let's say, for example, you cite somebody on Monday, and they just move the car to the next block. Are they compliant at that point, or does the spirit of the law allow us to go after them even though they've just moved it a block?
Well, it all depends. Depends on if they're in a zone. Is it a time zone they're in? It depends. If it's just regular street parking, they could do that. But if it's in a time zone and they come back to wherever spot they are, we start timing it from that point forward.
But in other words, it has to be in the same spot.
What do you mean the things?
Well, in other words, if you violate them in a 4-hour parking zone,
Right.
and they move down,
Right. Then we start. Basically, it would start all over again.
all right. And the next question I have is, how do you track an offender that has 3 violations that are outstanding? I mean,
It's in our system. We can do it.
I mean, you're not hunting them down, are you?
No.
You're saying if you come across them.
What we do is, just long story short, is we can put what they call a hot sheet. What we do is we run a report, and it shows exactly who hasn't paid and has 3 or more citations that are over that period of time. And what we do is we load it into our computers, into our handheld phones, and it's there. And then that way, any of our officers, when they walk by, this one has one, we know it. What they do is they'll call, they'll verify it, they know exactly that it's there, that we can do it then at that point. And when they get that, then what we're gonna do is we're gonna get with a PBSO officer, they will meet us on scene, we will put the boot on, if it happens to be the boot, or be able to tow it right then.
May I? Please. So the other question I have is, you're not coming to my house if you know that I have 3 outstanding tickets.
No.
You're not doing any of that type of
No, nothing
work.
like
This
that.
is just going to be
Only for
happenstance if they
compliance.
come
Yes.
upon the car. If they come in contact with the car again,
Right.
and it's in the system,
That's all.
that's when it's going to get booted.
That's all.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Commissioner Amoruso?
Larry, talk a little bit about the difference between the ordinances, because the car you mentioned that was on Lake Avenue, I was involved with that car. It was a legal car on Lake Avenue for weeks. And the problem then became that people found out that if it did not have a tag on it, or if it was out of date with its tag, it could have been towed like that. But because it was a legal vehicle, we had no teeth to do anything. Unfortunately, what happened with that car is when people found out, somebody stole the tag, and therefore it enables the city to do something. But it started with a tag that was legal. Explain the difference between, illegal versus, this really helps with legal cars that are just unsightly or in the wrong place.
Correct. Basically, that's what happened. A vehicle parked, it was in a time zone, and basically, because we work in conjunction with code enforcement could only put a red tag on it basically in a notice and notify it, but they basically have to go by state statute and follow that. And we couldn't do anything. That was it. We had no teeth to get it moved, to get that vehicle moved, and that's what we want. We need that. Basically, it was taking up space. It should not have been there. It should not be left. Somebody could park it, leave, walk away, take the keys, and just leave it in a 4-hour zone. I mean, that's not being correct. So we want to be able to enforce the law. This is part of the enforcement.
Commissioner Hardy?
Yes. So I just want to be clear. When you come across a vehicle that has been issued 3 citations, it has to have been issued at least 3 citations
That are 15 days old or more.
that are 15 days. Okay. So this car has 3 citations. You come across it. It may not be in violation at that time,
Correct.
and you can put a boot on it
If it shows up in our system.
if it shows up in your system.
But what we do is we don't check every single vehicle. We only check the ones that we actually are going to be issuing citations to. So we're not going to go through and make it a blatant, okay, this car, just because it has paid, we're not even going to check it. I mean, it's only the ones that basically my guys are out there checking.
So it's
not like we're running them down and looking for fees or anything like that. It's nothing to do with that.
So I just want to be clear again. The person doesn't have to be in violation, though, in order for you to slap a boot on it.
No, they wouldn't have to be, no.
Okay,
But when
so-
we're not going to blatantly go out and look for them, no.
All right, so let's take the beach, right? Because I understand sometimes our parking officers, they go and they check to see, who's parked where at the beach. And you find someone who isn't in violation at the beach, but they have been issued some citations that are old, and you slap a boot on it. And, we can do that. And that
Correct. That would be
okay.
correct.
Okay. I don't know. I mean, I would like to know what other cities are doing about this. Is this something that, other cities just do? And I guess, my thing is, if you've ever been very poor, small things like that can upend your life. So you have a situation where, perhaps someone's been in violation a few times and, they get caught, after the 3rd time, somehow we find them, we slap a boot in their car, they've got to go to work the next day, perhaps they can't, maybe it's a weekend, they don't have access to the city to pay a citation or what have you, and, what happens? That's a concern that I have. I don't know if anyone here on the commission shares that concern, but I certainly have that concern. I understand people, if you're in violation of the law, I get it. But that's a concern that I have.
I've had my car booted when I was very young. Place where I used to work when I was young, there was never any parking. It was in New York. And you have to fend for yourself in New York to find parking anywhere that you possibly can. And I had my car booted for 3 tickets in a very short amount of time. It's been around forever. It's always been there. I had my experience. I learned at a very young age to pay your tickets very quickly. It's just
provided you're able.
Yeah, but I didn't have any money at that point either, and my car was towed.
There are many cities in the state of Florida that are using this.
They've been using it for a long. I mean, it's been everywhere. It's been in other municipalities. It's been in West Palm Beach. It's been in West Palm Beach for 20 years. It's new for us creating these laws because we didn't have anyone to enforce parking in the city. So even though we had 4-hour parking or 6-hour parking or whatever it was at whatever time, we didn't have anyone to enforce it. So we just let it go. And we had cars sitting there we had vacationing people that used to come snowbirds, leave their cars on our streets in the middle of town year round whenever they went back up to their homes in the Northeast.
Not
So,
cool. Yeah.
And
Commissioner
Hardy?
Sorry. And that's certainly not okay, and that's behavior that we want to avoid. And to the extent that we want to avoid that, we want to be able to do something that's going to hurt for the people that are consistently violating the law. That said, could we put something in place whereby if you are financially, not well resourced, if you can provide some evidence of this, that we can perhaps cut your break on your accumulated fines and/or citations? I don't know what the appetite is for that for the other 5 members of the board. I understand this is something that we want to, put teeth into this process because we have an issue here. But it's a concern that I have because I've been there. I know people who have been there, and it can be a serious life-changing event. In many cases, there was actually an article last year written in the Atlantic about that exact thing, about how life's small inconveniences can, for people who are very poor, can really, really change your situation in a really terrible way. So I think that's something we should think about.
Commissioner Mercer?
I just wanted to, I understand, and I will refer to the attorney. I don't know that we can pick and choose how we enforce it. But this is something that for the last 6 years since I got elected, it's been something that we've struggled with trying to figure out how to do it. And Commissioner Hardy, I refer you back to the tour of your district. It's really G Street, H Street, I get calls from that district on a regular basis. And, you can just drive up G Street along the railroad tracks, H Street. There are so many abandoned cars that have been there for years. We're not talking about, yes, it falls into a complete repertoire of people that might be at the beach and everything. But it's to clean up the city in a whole. And unfortunately, that district has lived with that. There's small houses that can't park even near their homes because there's a business next door that has derelict cars that are barely a car. So and I'll let the attorney speak. I don't know that you can pick and choose it within the ordinance.
Well, you can't really pick and choose. And again, how would the enforcement officer know that this particular vehicle is owned by someone that makes X dollars versus Y dollars? I think what Commissioner Hardy maybe was getting at was, at some point, it's almost like proving that you're poor and ask for a reduction of your citation. That's a process that I'm not aware of really existing anywhere. I guess you could do something like that. Where you'd have a difficult time is the towing company. They're not going to cut a break. I mean, that's where your bigger fees are going to be. The citation is probably going to be a fraction of the cost of the boot and the cost of the immobilization. And the only thing I'd comment on is one part of this ordinance that's not being really discussed, which I think from a staff standpoint is just as important, is the ability to put towaway signs up. You don't have the towaway. We don't have that ability now. You mentioned G Street, H Street, some of these streets that we know there's a constant issue with vehicles being parked there all the time or being moved from one side to the other. PBSO goes out there, there's no VIN on the car, next thing you know it's being moved. So we're really trying to beef up the ability to create these no parking zones with towaway signs so they can be cleared up as well, not just the person. We're focusing on the people with the citations. I think as Larry said, they're not going to be looking for that car that's got 3 citations. But if you happen to have 3 citations and parked illegally again, now you've kind of been caught.
Did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, and just to follow up, in those districts, you had mentioned having no VIN number and things like that. It's a huge burden to PBSO also. These are businesses in that district that are making money from insurance companies, from these cars being totaled, and then they are storing it on city right-of-ways within a neighborhood. That's really what we're talking about.
Commissioner Hardy?
Yeah, so I'm familiar with my district, and I understand that there's also a difference between cars that have been issued 3 citations and cars that are derelict or have been abandoned or aren't operable and haven't been moved for a very long time. There's a difference, and we have procedures in place for those cars already. And so this really doesn't have anything to do with G Street. It has to do with cars that have been issued citations. I understand that we have a problem. It's not as if I don't want to solve the problem. I just wish that we could have some sort of process for people for whom this may be a very serious issue. And I get it. I just, I just wish there was more of a process.
Commissioner Robinson?
I think that it's a continuation of the red tags that have been, I consider, very successful and is going to make a difference in the overall perception that Lake Worth isn't a village of derelict cars. I'm concerned that the forklifts and boat trailers and miscellaneous other vehicles that are parked on the streets that aren't in no parking areas are still going to be on the street. I'm familiar with a car in my neighborhood that has grass growing around it. It's got a legal tag on it, and it's still there. And I don't know if we're going to address those kind of things or not. But I'm very pleased that we're moving towards addressing the problems of cars and their time schedules.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. To follow up on Commissioner Robinson's comment, I think when you were speaking, I think what I wanted to help you with was we don't want Lake Worth to continue to be considered a dumping ground, if you will. And I think historically, that has been in some small way part of our reputation, and it's something that we've got to fix. I certainly empathize with the comments I've heard about folks that can't afford their tickets or whatever. I remember back in the mid-'70s in college, they were handing out $24 tickets. $24 was a lot of money in 1976. And let me tell you, when you're a college student, that hurts. But it all comes back to behavior. How many of those $24 tickets you're going to get before you stop violating the parking ordinance? And you know, this is what we're talking about here. You can't, you know, I understand some folks don't have the resources, but then they should stop getting the tickets. You get one ticket, that's a mistake. You get the second ticket, you're not paying attention. Or the third ticket, come on. And if you're not paying them,
That's the way I like it.
that's really the issue. Now, to the extent that Commissioner Hardy is concerned about folks in life-altering situations, financially altering situations, I get that. You know, if we want to have another conversation sometime in the future, maybe there's room for discussion to say, look, if you got one ticket and you're really financially, you know, down and out, you make arrangements with the city, but the deal is you can't get the second ticket, and if you miss whatever arrangement you have to pay that ticket, all bets are off. But there's only so far you can go with folks. You know, they know they're not supposed to park, they know they overparked. You know, we just cannot have separate set of rules for folks based on their, what do they say, justice is blind? The rules have to apply to everybody. So, thank you.
Commissioner Hardy?
Yeah, let's just be perfectly clear. This is not about dereliction, right? This is not about derelict vehicles. This is about revenue, okay? And cars that don't comply with the law. And I get that there's a behavioral component to this, but this is not about Lake Worth looking bad because we've got vehicles with flat tires on the side of the road. We have a process for that. So that shouldn't be brought up. That is a red herring. It is a straw man. This is not relevant to this discussion. This discussion in particular is about parking in areas where, you know, people know, you know, that we shouldn't park. So as long as we have this discussion, I think we should stick to what it's about. It's not about an image issue for Lake Worth. It's about revenue collection. And I guess that issue is, how important is that to us? We've been getting along just fine without collecting revenue from these individuals. And I guess my issue is, if there's a chance that we could, in the name of collecting revenue from these individuals, do some harm to someone or some family that, you know, might be irresponsible, sure. But perhaps it doesn't necessarily deserve to not have a car to go to work and have to pay the $300 a day or whatever it is that you have to pay when you get your car towed. If there's a chance that we can avoid that, and, you know, it's clear we line up on this. There's a motion. I suggest we vote.
Okay. I think, I understand where you're coming from, and I think that maybe there's some way we can enforce some sort of sort of hardship type of thing when we do with the electric utilities.
I
Maybe
think that
we
would be
could-
great.
We can look at that outside of this ordinance, that if somebody has a hardship with it, we can refer them to a certain place. That they could get help financially from it, but still the restrictions and the citations lie as they are.
Right.
But I think that's something that maybe as commissioners, we can work together on doing something for. I understand where you come from. I think it also has to do a lot with not just derelict, though, from my perspective. It has to do with the downtown business communities. And that's why I got that when I was a kid, because the businesses in that community want the turnover, not just for our revenue collection, but they want the turnover. When you have employees of stores parking in front of their own businesses, it prevents people to come in and shop in those stores and whatever. And really, that's a long-term parking situation we need to look at, as where can we create employee parking for those businesses so that people that want to come in and utilize our shops and services downtown or at the beach or whatever can do so when employees can be somewhere else, because those spots are being, and I think that the business community will tell you that the enforcement needs to happen so people can come and park. Nobody wants to park down the street. They want to park exactly in front, and unfortunately so do the employees. They want to park where they can get out of their car and do it. And because we haven't enforced it, it's just been kind of, you know, everyone parks wherever the heck they want to do it. So this gives us a little teeth for the people that are really abusing the system, but I think that we can probably come up with something, find some solution on our own.
What if we increase, I'm sorry, may I be recognized?
Yeah, Commissioner
What
Hardy.
if we increase the number of citations you have to have in order for this process to kick in? I would be 100% for it if we went, for example, from 3 to 5.
I don't know.
Did you call the
Glenn?
vote?
There's-
Were we ready to vote?
No, there's public comment.
Glenn was recognized.
To,
We haven't had public comment yet, so I can't call the vote.
I heard Commissioner Hardy's suggestion, and maybe a compromise to that suggestion might be that it's 3 or more citations if you're found illegally parked. But for that example where someone is legally parked and you happen to come across them, which is a small percentage. I mean, that's not who's targeted at all. But again, you stumble across a crime, you're gonna report the crime or deal with the crime. You stumble across a car and you know that this car has multiple citations. You'd be derelict in your duty if you didn't put the boot on it. But maybe in that instance, if you're illegally parked, maybe that's 5. If that would help, because then, you know, if you're illegally parked and you're caught, okay, you're illegally parked. But if you're legally parked and you just happen to stumble on it, that none of that works at all, Larry. I'm trying.
And that would work fine. I mean, I could put that in our policy and make that part of our policy and procedure. I mean, that would be it. I mean, that's one thing that I can do.
Commissioner Mercer?
I'm not opposed to that, but Larry, tell us how we got here. Obviously, there's been a lot of, issues. Let's go back up to the beach. I know, for an instance, that you have quite a few people that have a lot more than 3 tickets. What got you to this point?
Well, let me do a little bit of history here. When I first came in, I started getting in the system and running reports on exactly who did and who didn't owe us money. I finally found many vehicles that do owe us much money. There's some vehicles owe us as much as over $5,000 in unpaid citations. Yes, that is correct. Okay, and it's just blatant. And when people blatantly violate the law, that disturbs me.
Follow up. So you can say it's about the money. You can say, I understand, but these are people that do it on a regular basis, that come to Lake Worth, that know what they're doing. They're doing it on a regular basis. Yes, there may be some other people falling into that category, like Commissioner Hardy mentioned, but these are people that are doing it on a regular basis. And it costs the city, it costs the taxpayers money to actually go up and ticket these people, and it costs taxpayers the money we pay you to actually chase down the funding and do these things. So there's a cost to the taxpayers.
All right, we've got a motion on the floor in a second. Why don't we go to public? Hold on. One at a time. Commissioner Hardy, Vice Mayor, and then we're gonna go to public comment.
I have a question. I understand it costs us money. How much money in citations, how much revenue do we get from the beach every year?
In like just meter money or
In
citation
citations
money?
alone. In citations alone.
This year we're projected to be around in 18 about $260,000.
So we're doing okay.
What is
Thanks to very good staff.
Vice Mayor?
And this dialogue brings up a few more questions. First of all, Larry, what is a regular parking ticket? What's the cost? If I stay over at the beach or downtown, what's it gonna cost me for a parking ticket?
If you happen to get one and you're over the meter violation, for example, is only $30.
How many?
All set, $30.
$30.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's $30, generally speaking, that's what you're looking at for a ticket.
Now, if it goes after 15 days, then it will double to $60 and it will remain there.
Okay.
So in other words, you have a time limit on it.
Now, I know the question was asked about, Commissioner Amoroso wanted to know about, some of the bigger violators, and you mentioned one's got $5,000 in violations, which is a lot of parking tickets. That's 300 parking tickets, or 400 whatever it is, 600 parking tickets at 40 bucks a piece. But my question is this: how many people have you been able to figure out how many people currently under this scenario have 3 or more tickets outstanding? Do you have any idea what that number looks like?
I haven't run a report lately. It'd be quite a few.
When you say quite a few, it'd be 1,000?
Probably. Oh no, probably 100 or more.
So there's 100 more people out, so it's not a real large universe.
No, it's not like that. No.
And the last question I have is, and I don't know how the state of Florida operates, but I think I've heard in some states, if you have parking tickets that you don't pay, you kick it up to the state, and that impacts your driver's license. Is that something we've looked at? Is that something we can?
Actually, we do have the state of Florida. We have that. If you actually get 3 unpaid citations and you have a registered vehicle in the state of Florida, they can put a hold and a stop on your vehicle. And I take care of that now because people do get 3 or more sometimes. They will go down to DMV, try to register their vehicle, and find out they can't until they come to us and pay their citations. So that is one good tool that we do have. This is another.
May I? Are you currently using that tool?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so under the current system, anybody that has 3 or more tickets that are 15 days or more outstanding, you're kicking this information to Tallahassee, and that's going to red flag their vehicle?
Correct. The
Or the driver's
registration.
license,
DMV gets it. DMV will automatically put a hold on it for us.
So I guess my question is this. Well, I guess this is the shorter term solution to get them to pay their tickets in real time, as opposed to them waiting till the registration comes up. Is that correct?
Well, this is just another tool in the toolbox, like I said, to get them to pay and
But-
to bring them into compliance. That's really all we're looking for.
But if I have 3 tickets that fall into this category, and I get pulled over by the highway patrol, is that going to get flagged?
No.
Okay, so it's not something that you get pulled over for a traffic violation?
No. It's only if you get like 3 citations from us, it goes to DMV. They can put a hold on the plate for the registration.
So you won't be able to register your car until you satisfy what your outstanding
One of the
debts.
tools, correct.
I see. Thank you.
Captain Bear, you're back there. Do you have any input that you want to make on this? I saw you looking at me. Like, let me chime in.
Good evening. This will be an option for us as well, but as you know, we mainly do our parking tickets in the residential areas and the areas away from the beach and the downtown. We don't want to duplicate the effort that the city parking people are doing. I would say it goes beyond a revenue maker. Respectfully, I disagree a bit. The areas you mentioned, G and H and whatnot, where these are businesses violating with both derelict vehicles and others. I would agree it's not so much with the abandoned or derelict vehicles because those are handled. We have an avenue through the red tag process, but those same businesses that are putting out the wrecks are also putting out the cars that are getting fixed who are parking tickets. Maybe they're putting them out every day too close to the intersection or the stop sign or whatnot. And right now we can write a parking ticket every day. And well, number one, it's not even their car. It's probably a customer's car. And number two, they're just going to put it out tomorrow and put a different one. So they're putting out derelict or abandoned vehicles and other vehicles that are properly registered. They just don't belong there, and they're flooding the streets to the point where the other residents can't park. So I would say there's more issues there. One suggestion with the people with the monetary issues, and I'm not 100% sure we're still doing it, on our tickets, the moving and non-moving, for years, an option to pay it was community service. So that could be an avenue. I'm not sure if it's still being done, so don't hold me to it, but I'm fairly certain. So I think at the time when I was writing tickets, it equated to about $10 an hour for each hour of community service, and then you could work them off that way.
Okay.
So that's another avenue that might be possible.
I think that we can. Commissioner Hardy?
Otherwise, this is about 90% parking issue and 10% PBSO. And even if a boot goes on, it's kind of a team effort. We're there for safety, but they're going to boot the vehicle. Even if it's our parking ticket, we're not putting the boots on. We would have to call them to come boot the car. So this isn't so much a PBSO issue, but we do write our share of parking tickets, and it is a problem. Fire trucks can't even get up G Street to the point where they take H. But what if the fire's on G is always my question.
Okay, can we add something to ours that has some sort of community service component?
Well, it's very difficult for us to. What makes it any different from us taking or saying, okay, well, I can't pay my electric bill, so I want the city to pay the electric bill because I don't make enough money to cover my electric bill. Now, we have a list of services that can be contacted to help that person, but can we legislate? You know what I mean?
Sure.
I just don't know into our rules if we can legislate those kind of things that would then need to be available on every aspect of.
Sure.
Commissioner Hardy?
Yeah, my response to that would be, I guess, as far as electricity goes, we're providing them a service, right? So we've we're drawing up some contract with them, and then, you know, they say, okay, you live here, you've got service at your apartment or your house or whatever, we provide you with the service, we expect to be paid back for something that we provided you. This is not a business transaction. This is something very different. This is us feeling as though, and actually, in fact, missing revenue based on people who violated the law. It's apparently not a large number of people, and so that leads some to say that, well, we're not affecting too many people. I think that kind of things perhaps proves too much. If it's not affecting too many people, then it's not it shouldn't be that big of a deal for us, but I get it. Look, I think we all know where we stand on this. I don't want to belabor this issue too much. I have a concern for people who are extremely poor and perhaps irresponsible, sure, but I don't want to boot their car or keep them from going to work the next day because of that. I understand tickets are $30, but if you work at Walmart, that's what, 4 hours of work almost. So I get it. I think we pretty much all know where the five of us stand on that. I would love for us to add a community service component to it. If we can't, then that's fine.
Well, I think we've said before that I think that there is something we can do without legislatively doing it by this vote, that we can help, and there are many ways that we can. And I don't think it's fair to say across the board that we know where everyone stands, because I've done more to help the most impoverished in our community in my life than many. So I don't want that.
Sure.
I think that was out of line.
I was not making a general statement. I was making a statement about this particular ordinance. I apologize if I was not clear about that. I understand all of us are pretty compassionate. We all come from very different backgrounds. I wasn't making a general statement about your disposition toward the poor. I apologize.
We all care about the poor up here, and we're all trying to do the right thing for everybody. I also know that we're probably one of the only cities that offers free parking in their downtown than any other community in this area. Find another city that you don't have to pay for parking anywhere. That, you know, you have the opportunity, and up until just recently, we never enforced the parking ever at all. So we're just kind of, we're coming up again, making up for 15, 20 years. But I think, you know, we've got a motion on the floor in a second, and then I'd like to go to public comment. We do have several cards. First up, Angel Alvarez, followed by Tammy Panza. Ms. Panza, you have 2 letters written on here. Did you want to speak on this one? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, all. Angel Alvarez, 1406 Richard Lane. I came here today to not only support my leaders of my beloved hometown, the city of Lake Worth. Thank you, each and every one of you. Unfortunately, I'm here to hold the leaders accountable of the way city compliance represented themselves and the city of Lake Worth, and the way they treated the people of Lake Worth, including the residents and those who protect us, the deputies. I had never met such a government agency, and I've been around the world, or branch with such abysmal, unprofessional, and poor feedback. Not to mention which can be perceived as harassing minorities, amongst other things. It is not only sad but disappointing to see, as a resident who wants nothing but transparency, fairness, and liberty for all, which I am willing to fight tooth and nails and then some more for those values that average Joes and the people who fought for us, that came before us, made it happen. I'm here to not only identify problems, but to also offer solutions and see accountability take place. Thank you.
Thank you.
I had city compliance come to my house, and they made a huge mistake of not reading the tags properly. And then I went to the sheriff department. I had a city compliance officer arguing and disrespecting a deputy of Lake Worth Department, a city compliance officer. I didn't even heard of them. And finally, they have jurisdiction. And first and foremost, they need a deputy signature to make the red tag valid. They just need an officer signature, and that's it. And the officer was trying to fix it. It was an honest mistake, which I believe on the behalf of City of Compliance. When I went to go correct it and rectify the situation, nothing happened. And 3 days later, I got my car towed during finals week. While I'm trying to take care of my son and get a master's degree in 3 years. And just like Commissioner Hardy was talking about, people need their cars. It's not a want, it's a necessity in the state of Florida. Okay, you can live without electricity. You know, the example you provided, Mayor, was a good one, but you don't need electricity to live, but you need your car to go to work and go to school, and to provide a better example for your family members. It cost me 3 days. and $280 and then some more money to get my car back when it was an honest mistake that said that it would be taken care of. And I went to the city compliance on 1900 on 2nd Avenue, Detroit Street or whatever. Nothing happened, and I still got my car towed. And then it put the lives of the city compliance officer in jeopardy and the towing guy. Because as a veteran, when I hear my car alarm on my property in front of my house that I paid for off, paid the freaking bank 60 grand, and just probably pay property taxes to keep the sheriffs here in Lake Worth.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
If you can stick around, I want some staff to talk to you, okay?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Tammy Panza, followed by Peggy Fisher.
Hi there. I lived almost downtown, 100 block on L Street. Thanks. I am thinking that this ordinance as written needs to go back to the drawing board. I am in a situation where people constantly block my driveway. The paving lines where you're allowed to park and not allowed to park are almost unseeable. You can't have people parking in an area legally if they don't know where they can and can't park. Constantly the alleys are being blocked. Constantly people park where you can't turn the corner. We have 18-wheelers with trailers parked in there. But with that in mind, why would you ever put a boot on a car that would keep a car in a non-compliant area? Why would you ever do that? Tow them or not tow them. Give them a ticket, don't give them a ticket. I'm also a fan of people going to work and making money so that they can pay said tickets. You put a boot on a car, it's not going to get to work that day. So I think this needs to be taken out. I think it needs to be rewritten. The towing should be separate from the, what is it called, immobilization. I know people that are so in the circle of legaldom that one thing happens and then another thing happens and then another thing happens and then code has an issue with them and then it turns into something with the PBSO and then it just turns into a mess. I don't know if we're trying to rule or regulate a situation that's already regulated. We should be enforcing the law and I'm not quite sure this needs to be, I'm getting incoherent here, but this thing needs to go back to the drawing board. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy Fisher.
Peggy Fisher, 508 North 8th Street. Well, on the other side, I think this is a good thing. The city has posted signs about hours of parking and where you park. The city has a parking ticket hearing access that you can, when you get a parking ticket, you can appeal that ticket, each and every ticket. There is an avenue for people to appeal it. And as Vice Mayor Maxwell said, one ticket is a mistake, 2 tickets, maybe another mistake. But if you keep getting tickets, just like any other thing that you're in violation of a law, if you want to keep violating the law, then you have to accept the consequences of that. I understand people don't have a lot of money. I grew up in a family with 5 kids. I understand that. But if you don't have a lot of money and you get a parking ticket and you have to pay it, then you learn that if I don't want to pay that $30, I abide by the law. I park where I'm supposed to park, I drive how I'm supposed to drive and not run red lights or whatever the problem is. This is putting teeth in laws we already have. I live in District 2. I have driven or tried to drive down G Street and face a car coming at me because it's basically a one-way street, even though it is a two-way street. And it depends on which way you're going, whether or not you're going in the right direction. The same can be said about G Street, which at night is nothing more than tow trucks upon tow trucks and commercial vehicles parked overnight and tow yards putting cars out. So I applaud you all for putting some teeth in our ordinance, and I don't think it's about revenue. I think it's about making us a better city and enforcing the laws that we have. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comment cards on this?
That's it, Madam.
Seeing there none, I just wanted to clarify one thing. When you talked about what Ms. Panza said, when you talked about the booting of cars, booting wouldn't happen on cars that were obstructing the rights of way. Those vehicles would be towed.
No.
The parked vehicles that have multiple citations are the ones that would be
Correct.
booted until the
Correct.
citations are paid. So if anything was obstructing the right of way of anywhere or whatever, they would be
They could be towed. Mm-hmm.
Okay, just want to clarify that. All right, we've got a motion on the floor and a second. Seeing there are no more public comment cards, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 4-1. Thank you. We're gonna move on to, 12B. City Attorney, would you read the ordinance, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, ordinance number 2017-10 of the City of Lake Worth, Florida, amending Chapter 23 Land Development Regulations, Article 7, Floodplain Management, Division 1, Administration, Section 23.7-2, Applicability, Subsection C, basis for establishing flood hazard areas of the Code of Ordinances to update the date of the flood insurance study and flood insurance rate maps, providing for severability, the repeal of laws in conflict, codification, and an effective date.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any public comment cards on this?
No, ma'am.
Seeing there are none, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 12C. City Attorney, would you read the ordinance, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor, ordinance number 2017-11 of the City of Lake Worth, Florida, amending Chapter 19 Streets and Sidewalks, Article 1 in general by creating Section 19-14 to be entitled Right-of-Way Solicitors and Canvassers, prohibiting solicitation in and upon certain rights of way within the city, providing for definitions, findings and intent, enforcement and penalties, codification, conflict, severability, and an effective date.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We've got a public comment card from Peggy Fisher.
I think she just exits out.
She's right here.
Part due. Can't be part due.
Okay.
Yes, both.
Both. Peggy Fisher, 508 North A Street. I only wanted to come up here and say thank you to the city attorney and his staff for working through all the issues about this and bringing it back to the commission as they had asked.
Okay. Ms. Panza, did you want to speak on this one as well?
Are we in C already?
Yes. The rights of way.
I am in favor of passing this ordinance. I know that we've had a recent county ordinances passed where the median is taken care of, but I constantly use the exits to the highway and people are obstructing the traffic. So please pass this. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got a motion on the floor and a second. Seeing there are no more public comment cards, City Manager. All those in favor state so by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Move on to item D, seeking commission direction to change commission meeting rules and procedures. Who's gonna spearhead this one?
I will.
City Attorney. I tried last time. Good luck.
Oh, the clerk and I sat together last week and we said, how can we try to make this a little more straightforward? So we created this chart that's on the last page of this particular item. And it might be helpful, I'd suggest we go through the chart because to me it broke down to 6 different questions and we almost had yes and no little boxes in here. So for example, the first question that we came up with based on your comments last time is, did you want to extend the time for public participation on agenda items from 2 minutes to 3 minutes? And then the next question would be, if you want to do that, do you extend the time for agenda items? And then, so it's broken up into 6 different little subsets. So maybe the first question would be, do you want to extend that time for non-agenda items from 2 to 3 minutes?
Yes.
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 So it seems like there's a consensus on that one.
What are the others?
Well, we're voting on it tonight, so.
Right, yes.
Well, we're going one by one through this while we have a discussion.
Did you want to make 6 separate motions, or do you want us to wait till the end?
Well, may I, Madam Mayor?
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I think that this is where it's going to get a little dicey. I think you can't take any one of these first and get a vote because it may impact our opinion on how we view the rest of the options.
Okay.
Does that make sense? I mean, if we lock something in on the first vote.
Deb, you have something to say? City Clerk?
I did. I believe that the questions that were being asked were to be able to come up with a plan that you would be able to vote on. So they're getting the consensus now of various
So-
things that you want, that you may want added in.
So when we speak to each one of these 6 items, we're just kind of giving a flavor for. how
Giving
we're
our
gonna get to
direction
the
so
end.
that next
So
meeting
we're
we'll
not-
bring back
We're not
the
carving
actual.
it in stone.
We'll bring back the rules that reflect what you said tonight.
I'm going to start. How about that?
Okay, please, thank you.
Since I stymied the last time. My comments last time trying to build consensus and get a feeling from all of you, somehow I got blasted in a corner. I was trying to offer different ways to look at it to see how you wanted to do it. I'm going to stand here based on the phone calls that I received and the emails that I received to say I would like 3 minutes for non-agended items. I would like 3 minutes for agended items. Looking at all of the county laws and our municipalities and those around us, they all have 3 minutes. So I would look to extend it to 3 minutes. There are also some other things when we do this that we should look at in reference to how the county handles it. Now, the one thing, and this is how things have changed and get crazy over the course of years, because some of these were in place for our city and then they were removed. As a general practice, comment cards will not be accepted after presentation of an agenda item has begun. However, the chair has the discretion to accept additional comment cards. So therefore, if you want to get in if you put your comment cards in before a motion and a second has been made, that's it for comment cards. You don't start throwing comment cards in, but this is the county laws now. I'm not saying that we used to have similar rules. Comments shall be limited to the subject being considered by the board. And if there is a motion on the floor, shall be limited to that motion. That means you can't come up and make comments on items that are sort of near the issue, but aren't actually the items that the motion's been made on. So you can't come up and give your opinion on what you think about the beach when the item is to vote on one specific aspect. Your comments need to be on those specific aspects. Again, these are the county, and again, used to be included in our rules. Allowing the use of a speaker's time by another individual is within the chair's discretion. When people come up and say, hey, I want so-and-so to use my time. In the event that more than 20 people indicate their desire to speak on the same or related item, the chair may establish a maximum time limit not to exceed 1 hour. So say you have people coming in and there's 40 people that come in to speak about an item when they go to the county commission, they will say, okay, a 1 hour time limit, and then the people that are speaking, sometimes they'll even, which is listed in here, will even put it to for and against any such issue so that they know, and the fors and against can work out times that they all can speak and not hit on the same item so that they're utilizing their time to the best of their ability. The key to all of this, and the reason why I bring these forward, is that the many changes over the time of as to what has happened has been because it has been expanded and used in a way to bring things to the table that weren't necessarily the item of business to be discussed. I think that I'm all for people talking as much as and having more time to talk and being transparent about everything, as long as we're sticking to the items on the agenda. And I think anyone should have more time to talk about that. I'm good with that. I'm fine with that. I think that will stop some of that crazy pontificating that goes on around here half the time just by sticking with the item. And for us too. You know, I think if we're going to give 3 minutes to everybody else, let's give 3 minutes to ourselves. As commissioners, I'm fine with that too. You know, I think that we don't. If people feel that way, I mean, I got all kinds of comments this week. It's not about, I want everyone to feel that they have their say, and I want everyone to have their say. It's just a matter of, you know, and about, I mentioned moving the public participation of non-agended items to the end. That was strictly for business purposes. That was just saying, we're paying overtime. If I care about my taxpayers' dollars, if we're gonna pay overtime to employees to stay here after hours, to do things and stay here till 10 or 11 o'clock at night, is that the most cost-effective way to spend your tax dollars? Everyone's still gonna be here, and we could move. We have people coming in from the professional community to give presentations. We should give, number one, our staff the ability to come and get out and keep our costs low, bring the professional people in to do business, and then talk about things that aren't on the agenda later. That's fine. I got a lot of flack for that, so fine, leave it where it's at and leave it in the beginning. I'm okay. I'm just I'm opening the conversation. This is not what I want, what is set in stone. I'm just trying to be fair and listen to everybody and see what they want. Vice Mayor?
Well, actually, Commissioner Hardy.
Commissioner Hardy?
I think the simplest thing, if we're interested in people having more time, we should keep things the exact same way that they are and just add a minute. Add a minute at every opportunity and just leave it at that. I think that's the simplest solution to that.
That's what I was thinking too. Vice Mayor?
Sure. Honestly, I reflect back, and I'm not even sure how we ever got onto this conversation to begin with a month or so or 2 months ago. I really don't. No matter what system, if we alter the system that currently is in place, or we keep with the system that's currently in place, somebody's not, because we've raised the issue, because the issue's been raised, somebody's not going to be happy. Okay. I believe, and I've asked for years for the commission, for us, to limit what we have to say, okay, because we could go back and forth all night. We're here to conduct business, and I think that most issues can be spoken to in 2 minutes if you're on point. Now, I would, as far as the non-agenda items are concerned, so I can't, granted, you get to speak to more than one issue, so let's go with an extra minute, but to add an extra minute to every agenda item, I'm indifferent. And what are we doing by doing that? We want to encourage people to be succinct and get to the point, and like you said, not necessarily pontificate. I will go along with whatever the four of you want to go with. I'm all for people having their opportunity to speak. But if we're just doing this as an exercise, then maybe we shouldn't change anything. If we're doing it for a meaningful purpose, that we're going to get something beneficial out of it, the public's going to get something beneficial out of it, then I say let's change it.
I think that I was basing this, looking at other communities and what they've done. Majority of other communities offer 3 minutes. So, all surrounding us, the smaller cities, the larger cities, but again, they stop people in their tracks if they want to talk about something that's other than the agenda item. You can have more time, but just stick to the items, And I think the county level too, when we have big items, an hour for public comment, do we want to get into that when you have 20, 30, 40 people wanting to talk about the same thing and saying the same things over and over again? I think I want to give everyone the chance, but that's how the county does it. Are we going to look at that too, or let's just look at the 3 minutes for now, and that's the safest thing to do. Commissioner Hardy?
I think we should just look at the 3 minutes. I think that's the safest thing to do. And
it was consistent across the board with 3 minutes, depending on the other municipalities. Commissioner Amoroso?
When I brought this up, I was really looking at the 3 minutes, moving it from 2 minutes to 3 minutes on the consent agenda. Because, staff has been putting a lot more on consent agenda because we're doing a lot better, of educating, us behind closed doors and talking to the community and, letting them know what's going on. Our meetings have been a lot more successful. But it's hard for the community to speak for 2 minutes on multiple consent agenda. So, I'd be comfortable with, adding 3 minutes to the consent agenda.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
Let's go back to the county procedure just for a second. It's my understanding that the county, you don't get to speak to every issue.
No, you do.
Oh, you do?
I was wrong.
Okay.
I went back. I was wrong on that, and also, I was right in the fact that every single municipality out of there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that we went through, or whatever. And as to the having the commission speak after the non-agenda items, not one of them has commission response to it. But the county, through all of our local municipalities. So that was correct, and it was why it was additionally not on the agenda.
And just to piggyback on that, I don't have a problem with that. We came in with it being on the agenda, so we assumed it was on there. I don't have a problem as long as staff is listening to everyone that speaks and gets back with them. There's a gentleman that we should have been talking to. He's
waiting.
left.
No, he's outside.
Oh, okay. As long as staff is listening, staff is making notes, and the appropriate staff member is actually addressing the, concerns of the residents, then I'm comfortable with that.
Well, and that is the one thing though. We have to be much more like Tammy's coming up here to speak. This one, I know you had other cards, but no address. So we've got to make sure
Yes.
that every card that if someone comes up and it doesn't have it, I have to be more diligent and say, what is your address, so that we have that. This way, if there is follow-up, that we know how to contact someone for that. I am going to, and this is what I observed, I watched other people's cities' meetings, I watched the county meetings, and what the leader of whatever organization it is, the person, the mayor, the commissioner, the whatever, they always say, thank you very much. So-and-so, would you please see Mrs. Alvarez after the thing? So-and-so, would you please attend to this, that, and the other thing? And that is my job, in those respects, as according to all the other mayors that I saw, and commissioners and liaisons that are the chairs of those positions. So, and then there's Dave Stewart, but we digress. Commissioner Robinson.
I'm interested in transparency, and when one person gets up to speak, and we might have heard several times during the week or 2 weeks that the same situation is happening, I would like the ability to at least talk about that one person speaking to a situation. Am I making myself clear?
You're saying he wants to rebut.
Well, not necessarily rebut, because I don't want to rebut. I want to address, we don't have to address everybody that stands up, but if it's a situation or an issue, I want to be able to address it.
Well, I think we can bring that up in our comments at the end.
Okay.
We can do that. Commissioner Emerson?
And real quick, two things. Is there a phone number option for a phone number on the blue card? Because
that would be great.
That might be something that we add a phone number.
Or an email.
Or an email. And if you'd like us to contact you as staff member, it's on there and it's easy. But again, I agree with you that we need these filled out. We know who Tammy is, but we don't.
Who is that
necessarily
Tammy girl?
But going back to what Herman had mentioned, there's a young lady that came to speak to Herman and I. She actually was addressing Herman at the break, and I heard her, and I was able to answer her questions and tell her what I talked to staff in a meeting today, and I think she's walking away a little bit more comfortable with the answers. But she was frustrated when she came on the break. So things like that, if I wasn't able to answer her question, she may not have got up and spoke about the question, but things like that, we just need to make sure that staff gets back to them.
Okay, Commissioner Hardy?
How can we make a decision on this, like now?
Well, if I could,
on what we want, how can we? I think we've discussed the issue. I'm very interested in giving Glenn the information that he needs to come back with us. This got kind of out of hand, the last time we discussed it. So I don't.
If I could recap, I think we had. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Robinson. Sorry.
No, I just wanted to point out that we don't have comment at the end of the meeting on public comment. There's no ability on this agenda.
No, there isn't. And in fact, to reiterate, the city manager's portion is a report from the city manager, and the attorney is a report from the attorney, not a free-for-all recap of whatever the city commissioner wants to add at the end of the meeting that they forgot to say during the beginning of the meeting. That has been turned into an area that is not on the agenda and talks about items. Again, see, our goal is to bring these items one by one to the public and to the commissioners, to meet with the city manager, to meet with the appropriate staff, and if you have a problem with something, to get an agenda item, they'll help you write it on the agenda to talk about a specific item and provide backup for everyone to do those things. When we throw them out there just like opinions, it gets misconstrued in a lot of ways. I think that you need to meet with the staff to find out what the situation is, good, bad, or ugly, or indifferent, or wonderful. First, create an agenda item and bring it to us so that we can sit and openly talk about them as agenda items, because we can't solve anything in a report. You know what I mean? We can't. What do you think, Glenn?
Well, what I'll say is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing is that all of you would like to have the time from 2 minutes to 3 minutes for non-agenda and consent items. I think everybody nods their head, they want to do that. I think most of you want to go 3 minutes for agenda items as well. Am I getting the consensus? And then there's a question, do you have commission discussion on all those non-agenda consent items? That's where I'm hearing a little bit of, and if you do, clearly I'm hearing you want a limit on it, maybe the same 3 minutes. So to me, the only question I really have that how to draft this for next time is, do you want the ability to discuss? I'm seeing a couple of heads shaking no. The gentleman over here is yes.
Not discuss, well, I
Commissioner
want
Robinson?
to address the issue. I don't want to discuss it. But in terms of efficiency, one person gets up and there's probably three somewhere out there that feel the same way. And does that mean that those other three people have to meet with staff? Wouldn't it be more efficient for the public to answer one's person verbally speaking, and the people that aren't speaking have the same concerns, and we would address it, and we would satisfy a little more clarity and transparency in communication?
How about this? Allow the mayor, because you've done this occasionally, if there's an issue that's brought up that there's a sense that there needs to be a response, allow the mayor the discretion to, in 1 minute, give a response.
That's how it is with the county.
But
But the mayor may not know.
That's
Or,
correct.
well,
Or to refer to staff.
or again, you wait till the end of all the public comment and you give each commissioner 1 minute to respond to everything they heard, or 2 minutes to respond to everything they heard. And if they pass, they pass.
We
No, if you pass on responding.
Oh, yeah,
Ju-
okay.
Just because you have an opportunity to speak doesn't mean you have to.
Right.
You know, if people made comments and there was nothing to talk about, you just pass on your turn.
Well, it just turned into a big debate up here between everybody on here. It was like a,
We're trying to be more efficient.
well, how do you legislate who's here now and who's there in the future, who was there in the past and who
Can I
whatever?
make a
It's a
suggestion?
clear set of rules. It was never on the agenda.
Can I make a suggestion? It sounds like there's some unanimity on a couple of items here. Why don't we run with those? As far as the issue of groups of people having some need for information, the city organization is trying to do a better job of doing frequently asked questions. We have 1,000 people plus will view this meeting. There might be an ability to actually pre-meeting on the reruns or on some videos. You know, maybe we can start to answer those kinds of questions to where we're being more proactive. I don't know that we can come up with a process tonight that's going to satisfy an ability to effectively rebut or provide information in this meeting that's going to satisfy everybody. Let's staff take a crack at figuring out how to do that better with the organization.
And there was an item in here, and I don't.
Is that something does that make any sense?
Yeah, there was an item in here though that talked about the role from the county side of it, and it made a lot of sense. And of course, I didn't highlight it. But I'll come back with you.
We've
I won't take any of
never
your
pushed
time.
out as much information. We've never been as transparent. We're really working hard and doing a much better. You read 3 or 4 press releases that came out just this week. I mean, we're pushing out more than we, and it's not enough. I mean, we're still improving.
You couldn't find the information for anything anywhere 6 years ago, and
Yeah.
now you can find it on the internet. And
We're
find
trying to be more
online and
transparent. We're going to
or
be
like a
bringing
million times
budgeting
more.
tools. There's going to be so much things out there that we're going to push out and people can avail themselves of, so that there's not. You guys have so many office hours. Most constituents can call you with a concern or question. You know, we spend a lot of time doing that. I don't know if you can come up with a process that everybody's going to like for this meeting.
Okay. But Commissioner Hardy, I see you at my.
I'm sorry, am I recognized?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'm not, here's how I marked this sheet. I would like to extend the time from 2 minutes to 3 minutes for public participation on non-agenda items. I would like to extend that time from 2 to 3 minutes on agenda items. Just having this sort of back and forth between people who've given comments and us, I don't think that's necessary. You know, when people come up here, I have a responsibility, especially if it's in my district, to respond to that person. If they've brought up an issue that I can help them with, that's my responsibility. And to some extent, they may have a responsibility to contact me directly. I get that. I don't think we need to formalize that process here on the commission, and I don't know how much help we're going to provide here from the dais. As far as a time limit for commissioners discussing items brought up in any part of the agenda, my thing is we are, of course, an organization that's here to do business. We're also here to deliberate about the business that we're doing. I believe that limiting the discussion that we're allowed to engage in would hamper our ability to come to the right decision. I think we can all be reasonably responsible about using these microphones here and changing the order of business to move public participation on non-agenda items to the end of the meeting. I am against. So that's where I stand on that. That's how I marked the sheet. Yes, yes, and then 4 consecutive no's.
Okay. I just said this is the city of West Palm Beach. This is not what I found. If there's a department director, if the comment has to do with an issue in the city, the mayor tells the speaker that she will have administration forward their issue to the appropriate department and that someone will be back in touch with them. If there is a department director at the meeting who can address the issue at that time, the mayor will ask them to step out and meet with the resident then to further discuss the issue. The mayor and commissioners do not enter into dialogue with the public during public comment, but they may speak for 3 minutes.
Okay. That's kind of what you're doing now. I mean, Juan just went out and spoke to the individual.
Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, staff is doing that.
I'm there too in regards to what Commissioner Hardy said as well. Commissioner Robinson?
It doesn't address the possibility and reality that the person standing here has the same issue as the people that aren't here. And that if we can address, I'm not talking about a dialogue, I'm talking about addressing whatever the issue is that and that we feel we have to respond to. So that it's more efficient. We're not addressing just the one person standing here and going out in the hall. It's a reality. I believe that we would be addressing more than one person by responding to the issue.
All right,
And-
Glenn,
and
do you
I
have?
would- I think that for the interest of the public, I would like to be able to do that.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I continue to be concerned about the time we spend going back and forth. And I've talked about this over the years from a process perspective, that the chair of the meeting, identifies the item, ask for a motion.
Oh, after tonight's meeting, we're gonna do that. We're gonna give the motion, whether you are for it or against it. Those who speak against it will give their response to it. Everyone will get one shot at it, and we'll get a second shot at it, and that'll be it. If we go past a half an hour, like it is on our books, we go past a half an hour on one specific topic, guess what? We're gonna move it to a workshop, or we're gonna move it to the next meeting. That's on our books, those are our rules, and right now we are violating our own rules, and I'd like everyone to take a look at the time and go over the ordinances that we have on the books. We put them there for a reason. Now, you want me to be by the books? We're gonna be by the books. Got it? Learn them, read it. Because this is ridiculous. We're going on and on and on. This is the second time we've gone on and on about an item, about how much they can talk, and we've sat up here flapping our gums. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. The other comment that I want to make, and it kind of speaks to Mr. Robinson's comments. How do I say this in a delicate way? And you've said this many times, and please, Madam Mayor, if I misquote you or misstate what you've said, please correct me. But essentially what you've said in the past, and I wholeheartedly agree, is that we're here to conduct business. Each of us has an opportunity, both as elected officials and the public, to learn more about these issues prior to coming to this meeting. Okay? Each of us on the dais, I'll start with us, has an opportunity to really dig in with staff and get the answers they need to their questions, their concerns, or whatever. Again, we're now prepared, when we come up here, reasonably prepared to make a decision to cast our vote. Now, sometimes we learn new things. Maybe somebody from the public will say something, or maybe one of the comments from one of our colleagues will be brought up and it may alter our position, or whatever, and that's what this process is supposed to afford. Now, let's talk about the public. The public has every opportunity, and we have many people that are very engaged in our community that download the agendas, that call us, they email us, they speak to staff. They have every opportunity to reach out. So generally speaking, the public has many bites at the apple, so to speak, to get the information they need to have before they come to the meeting. My concern with, I think I understand where Commissioner Robinson's going. There are 35,000 people with 35 different scenarios as to why they can't participate or what level they can participate. And we can't possibly come up with a scenario that's going to cover all of those needs. So, we started out with a conversation about, do we expand from 2 to 3 minutes the public participation on non-agenda item, and now we're blowing open all of our procedures, and we're getting into a conversation that's just like you just said, we're going down a rabbit hole here on what to do, and the reality of it is we could talk for days on this issue, and maybe not come to consensus, and if we still would have people in the public that won't be happy. So I think we need to scale this back a little bit tonight and come up with some easy, quick, not quick, that's the wrong word, with some responsible decisions on the concerns that Commissioner Amoroso raised. Do we want to expand it to 3 minutes, yes or no? Do we want to expand to 3 minutes for non-agenda items and leave it at that?
Yeah, that's what this process started out with. That's why we have this sheet, which was provided to us by the city attorney. This is where we started. I don't know how I know how we got off track from the discussion of going item by item on this sheet, but I certainly didn't take us away from what was on this sheet. I think we should just respond to what's on this sheet. It's very clearly laid out for us.
Agreed. Well, now you just had your introduction to our first Robert's Rules 101. When we have this next meeting, remember, we're going to be doing that. Please remember to read as much as you can. We're going to be very specific on how to do it. Please wait to be recognized. Please wait to be called. Please make sure that you have your items researched and ready to go, and you're ready to vote. Remember, we're not going to go beyond the half hour because that's on the rule book. I have been a softie for too long now. We need a little structure and order around here, so we're going to start that way, and let's start with this agenda item. Commissioner Robinson?
Can I ask then that we change the agenda to liaison reports from the commissioners and then comments at the end of the meeting?
I'm sorry, what did you want to do?
If you're asking for liaison reports and comments.
Yep.
And I'm asking that we do liaison reports and then allow comments at the end of the meeting. So that we don't have to.
I would like to speak to that. I think there was a day when the commissioner comments came at the end of the meeting, and that was changed a few years back. And because there are a lot of things that come up, a lot of things we hear from the public during the course of a meeting, like Commissioner Robertson has said, maybe we'd like to speak to that a little bit. Okay. We'd have that opportunity at the end of the meeting.
And give us 3 minutes.
Well, no. And we'd have our opportunity to give our liaison report and whatever final comments we have for the night all at one time. That's
and there would
not a bad idea.
there would be a time limit.
Sure.
Commissioner Morrison?
I can't get my liaison report done in 3 minutes.
Well, you can have 4.
I understand the time limit, but I'm sorry, you hear me, but sometimes you say, are you done yet? Are you done yet? If I have a report, I have a report. And, I get the whole comment, but if you're putting them together and you're putting them at the end of the meeting, when half the people have left that would hear
We've gone to almost an hour on this comment, so I'm going to use my executive decision to pull this item and have you speak individually with the city manager and the city attorney to give them your feelings on it, and it'll come back as an item that which could be voted on as opposed to direction for. This agenda item doesn't ask for a vote. This asks for direction on. So therefore, no vote would happen anyway in regards to this. So I would suggest you coordinate with the city manager and the city attorney and put your item so that it'll come up as a direction item. We're no longer going to go past an hour or a half hour for agenda items. We're going to move on, though, next to the Community Redevelopment Agency member removal process. That's item 12E.
Who's presenting this?
There was no vote, there was no motion. Usually don't go
No,
have
no,
public
that-
comment, huh?
Usually don't have public comment on a discussion item, but this was gonna give direction. Do you
Okay.
wanna- do you wanna give them
All right,
2 minutes?
public comment, we have Tammy Panza, and we have Peggy Fisher.
Thank you. I appreciate this because this was, I think I was the instigator. I don't want 3 minutes to speak to you. I think that everybody on the dais should speak their piece and move on, and then going back and forth for an hour is tough. So limit to one set of comments, limit us to 2 minutes. But there's nothing like someone coming to a commission meeting for the first time and feeling really passionately about a subject, and then you're told to address the commission, which you do, and then you're standing there and you're waiting for a response. You say, oh, no, you don't respond. But it's a little bit of validation and it's a little bit of goodwill to be able to take a minute at the end of the comments, because everybody wants to hear what you have to say. If you're talking about a subject, if multiple people are talking about a subject, Herman is right. There's more people that may be feeling exactly what that person speaking is feeling. There is nothing better and more inclusive than having your concerns validated or acknowledged at the very least. So if it's as little as directing someone here, you should speak to this department. This is a great area where you should go to do that. You should speak with your commissioner about this. Talk to me anytime. Here's my email address. I would say 1 or 2 minutes at the end of the topic for each commissioner to speak if he or she so desires, at the end of everybody speaking, to respond to, address, direct, whatever. And I've seen that happen where people take notes, and I've seen you guys all do it. And you say, as far as Mr. Smith, here, do this. As far as Mrs. Sally, do this. I don't think that's going to take up a lot of time. That would be, let's say you have 12 agenda items, there's 3 or 4 things people could talk about. That wouldn't add more than a half an hour to the meeting total. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fisher?
Peggy Fisher, 508 North A Street. I say that because that's part of your rules. If you're going to enforce it, enforce it. This is the 4th time you all have sat up here and had this discussion while we, the public, sit out here with our mouths taped. I don't understand it, but Commissioner Robinson's concern, make number 7, number 6. Put public participation on and comment on non-agenda and consent agenda before commissioner comments. That takes care of that. You can respond as much as you want. Read the back of your blue card. There are a whole bunch of rules back here that you're not abiding by. The bit about cards having to be turned in, it's right here at the bottom of the card. So I think maybe all of you need to take a blue card, read it, mark it up, and give your response to the city manager. I've sat back there for an hour watching you all go back and forth and back and forth. Just give your direction. But it's really frustrating. This has been going on this topic was brought up 6 months ago on December 13th when you all were discussing 3 of you were discussing raises. And my comment to you was, I supported that, but please give the public 3 minutes. 6 months later, come on, you talk about efficiency. How efficient is that? That's very inefficient. And for you all to just go back and forth and everybody has to talk, fill out the sheet you were given and turn that in. Give that direction. But to keep going on and having these discussions while we sit back here and can't comment, it's almost as if you don't want to hear from us. And those of us who come and sit here for hours after working all day give it just as much as anybody, and we're not getting paid. We're sitting here because we want our city to be better and we want to support you. So respect us who sit out here. Thank you.
Thank you. That's why I suggested the 3 minutes, based on public comment and the emails that I received and what I saw. So my suggestions, if we're gonna go down the line, we should have done that. Well, you know what? We're already at that point. We already gave our opinion. Everyone fill out your form, give it to the city manager, and hopefully it'll come back on a voting agenda item. Thank you. I don't have mine with me.
There's one more comment.
Hmm?
We had one more
Please
comment.
put,
Oh, I'm sorry.
please put your name on the form if you're passing by, so we know. Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Mr. Garcia,
Pretty
sorry.
soon.
Richard Garcia, 720 South Palm Way. I'm here to talk about putting in a comment card late. Because I wouldn't have known that that was an issue that you were going to talk about until I actually heard you talk about it, and comment cards would have been shut out, which is why you got my comment card now. So I would ask you to please, don't even consider that. 3 minutes is great. I mean, it's hard to jam it in 2 minutes, let's just face it, right? I don't think the back and forth is worth it. We're here an hour and 20 minutes now, so goodbye.
Thank you. I don't have mine, I left mine in my backup in the planners, thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to Community Redevelopment Agency member removal process.
I make a motion to reappoint Brendan Lynch.
Second.
To the CRA.
All those, do we have any cards on that?
We do not, Madam Mayor.
Okay, all those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Lake Worth Electric Utility, do we have anything?
No, Madam Mayor.
City manager, city attorney, do you have anything?
Only that we're making progress on resolving the casino matter, and I would expect that, I know on Monday we have a meeting with our outside attorneys, Mike Wan and some staff. So not next meeting, but the one after that, I'm hopeful that we'll actually have an agreement to present to you. Just give you a time, a preview.
Thank you. City manager? No, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you all for coming and taking your time. It's very much appreciated.
I don't have my backup, but Glenn does. I'm sure Glenn has it.